Welcome back, everyone, to another discussion for Tokyo Afterschool Summoners. We will be talking about the new content that released for Holy Night Transformation, Magical Snowland. Joining me today is the one and only Zalgus.
Just me today.
Yes, everyone was just so overly enthused by the kits this batch that they decided it'd be best to wait for Christmas to pull and to join the discussion, which there will be not a discussion this Wednesday, so I don't know what they're thinking. But anywho, let me know if the sound is fine, and we'll go ahead and start talking about the Kitaronis. Starting with our very own dear Snegurochka. This is going to be talked by Zalgus. Go ahead when you're ready.
Alright, so our new 4-star on banner. Can she show up the last 4-star? Well, that won't be hard because the bar is actually completely buried in the ground by he who must not be named, but whatever. Anyway, so Snegurochka can be summarized primarily as a damage buffer with respectable turn 1 burst damage from CS, who can then go on to clear her own column effectively. On joining, Snegurochka obtains 100 CP to immediately CS. The CS is magic damage and grants crit plus combo to self and guts to self and allies adjacent. On its own, the CS deals 8.3k damage, which is not incredible, but Snegurochka can apply freeze in shot range at the end of move phase, so it's likely that in shot range she'll do increased damage. So that makes this a 18k damaging CS, which is much more serviceable. Although there's something a bit ironic, but I'll get to that in a moment. When her CP is at 100, she also changes herself to Weapon None. This means immediately after her CS with combo, it grants... I don't know why I say it like that. This means immediately after her CS with the combo it grants, she will automatically miss following the CS, which leads to her first set of buffs when she misses. Ardor, Arousal, and Vigor to allies adjacent. Only Ardor and Arousal apply to herself. And then, before attacking, she triggers her next buff, which is Concentration to self and allies adjacent. Also, she gives CP to herself and allies adjacent, which can assist her in getting her own charge back up, since she'll want to keep trying to fire that off every few turns. She'll have one turn to benefit from combo with the shot range, which means she can hit up to 6 enemies in one turn. In an ideal world, she would be able to hit 3 enemies twice and proc every time, but first off, it's 70% rate. And it's actually unlikely she'll hit all 3 enemies twice, because she's actually probably going to kill them instead. At most, she would be able to get 80 CP in one turn, but that's never going to happen, really. So you're probably looking at requiring 2 or maybe 3 turns to actually get her CS back up, if she doesn't have someone supporting her by giving her CP. Anyway, she's going to be attacking with Ardor, Freeze, and Concentration and combo, which means that her own column damage is actually very high. With all 4 of those buffs, she deals a fairly good 24.7k damage, which, as I said, is or I was saying about the CS earlier, ironically her regular attack is actually much harder hitting, because of all the buffs she stacks here.
It's not that much harder, is it?
It's like, what, 6.7k damage harder?
Yeah, that's not that too much, relatively speaking.
I know, but generally one expects the CS to be, the big damage, but here it's actually lower, but it helps her in getting some early burst before she's lined up all her buffs. And she also has some other nonsense like Blessing and Remove Freeze or whatever. But yeah, the obvious draw is all the lovely buffs she can give to her allies. On turn 1, she's... I don't want to say guaranteed because it's 90%, but she's guaranteed to give allies Ardor and Vigor, while also being able to do plenty of damage herself. And then on the following turn, she'll stack Concentration on top of it. So that's a decent amount of buffs for a single like regular 4-star. So all in all, I'd say she's a competent column clearer. She's totally capable of killing her own column quite easily even, and also buffs adjacent allies pretty well with 3 buffs. Her freeze is selfish, unfortunately, because it's only in her own column. Magic and snipe ranges overlapping into it, notwithstanding. She grants 3 nice buffs to allies, 2 on turn 1, but it can be difficult to maintain because 2 of them require her to miss. She needs to get her CS back up to miss, or alternatively delete her own column and then she'll miss. But it's not a guarantee she'll actually have her CP high enough to CS again on time. Again, you can plan for that by pairing her with allies who can buff her CP gain, but it's whatever. So, yeah, I'd say she's a perfectly good 4-star. Definitely much better than the other caliber of 4-stars we've gotten this year, besides Ugolinak, who has his own niche. But yeah, she, good column clearer, decent buffer. She's not like meta breaking or anything, but if you want to use her, you definitely can, and not have to gimp your team to do so. Which I don't know if it's damning her with faint praise, but she's usable, plenty usable, which is more than I can say for the last clown who appeared.
As you can see, Zalgus' wounds are still healing from Saturnus' release. Though it is true that Snegurochka is probably the second best event permanent unit in the game, which is a lot of qualifiers to make her sound that good. She's still not amazing in particular, but we just have not been eating well when it comes to event units. That's not to say that there aren't good 4-star units in this year. There have been quite a few good variants, as well as good permanent ones from things like New Semester or the Chapter. Never mind units like Korpokkur or Baphomet. But yeah, Snegurochka is a bit boring, but they're functional. They're your typical column clear utility, except it's not even much utility in terms of piercing or anything like that. It's purely just damage amp, as well as her being able to clear her own column. So you kind of just slap her on, and I guess the quote-unquote utility she has is her damage is perfectly serviceable by herself for the most. She doesn't really need too much additional amp unless you're doing like the Blossom farm against Loki, which I guess you might need like 1 additional amp, because her damage is, decent. And it does get better if you have a few more dupes for that first burst. Not that it'll matter too much at that point. But yeah, she is definitely a unit that exists. She is neither terrible nor is she amazing. She is serviceable for what she is designed to do. Column clearing and column clear amp support.
You do say best permanent 4-star in the games.
Within this year.
Okay. I think you may have misspoke slightly, but yeah. This year, definitely. Like, what are our choices? Like, Himavar, Ugolinak, Saturnus, and
Hippolytus,
and there was someone before him who I forget.
What was it? Chat's gonna eat us alive for not remembering every units. So there was 2 summer events. Well, there was Ugolinak, you mentioned that, and there was Himavat. Saturnus. I think there were already 4 events. Yeah, that's everyone. Hippolytus. Amado Jaku. We don't count that event, but I guess he was pretty disappointing too. Well, he doesn't even count because it's not like we're expecting new units during New Year's anyways. It's like once every 4 New Years we get something new. So it's just a bonus at that point. But yeah, he wasn't that great, but we got Chainlong.
Yes, just them. Unless you want to count Otter from last year.
We're not counting Otter. If we're counting Snegurochka, we're not counting Otter. What the heck?
I guess. Although, even going back farther, she's still better than a lot of the other 4-stars, so...
Yeah, but it's more pronounced this year. But I don't think this is being helpful to let people know, oh, she's better than everybody else this year within the specific set of restrictions. You should definitely pull her. It's not like that. She's okay, but it's just funny that okay is somehow making her spectacular.
But yeah, that's probably enough on her. Definitely, for people who like her, you can use her. I'm sure you'll be able to find a way to use her.
Any comments on the design? Are you happy we now have a magical girl?
I do enjoy my Maho Shoujos, but I'm more of a fan of the classic Sailor Moon style stuff, not this one, which off the top of my head I would say is more like Precure, or maybe even Madoka outfits. What I'm saying is that it's not a Seifuku. But I mean, it's fine, it's pretty, even if it's not exactly the Maho Shoujo I would go for. But it's fine.
I think they could have done a lot worse. The color scheme is rather uniformly blue, which is not bad in terms of it could have been a bit easy to make very ugly with too much colors or something like that. So it was nice they restrained the color scheme this much for a magical girl. And also, I thought I'd be a lot more annoyed by voice acting given it's a specific kind of character, but pleasantly, her voice acting is actually, quite pleasing to listen to, not particularly offensive and quite demure. So yeah, I think she's okay in terms of first impressions. Definitely not a him of a moment. So let's move on. But first, why don't you read out the chat?
Meow Meow Cat. Hello, Helen. I got them all, everyone. Congratulations. Jurong. I don't know the name of the emote.
It's Waku. You really need to use the Discord server more.
Of course. Hi, everyone. Hi, Stream Element Spot, whatever. Gazer, yes, Bear. Waiting for Jackmus. Oh, yeah, right, him. He didn't end up manifesting.
Sadly not. We waited a week, and, we got some sort of confirmation he's not coming for this event. I mean, the third HTQ is out already, so that's, not even a spoiler at this point, so, continue.
It could still happen. No.
Surely.
Snegu is a solid 4-star to close this year, where she spreads vigor, ardor with better timings than fellow 4-star Kumano Kongen. I mean, he's free, to be fair. And she got guts. She gets guts to have some survival ability. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really talk about the guts much, but it is a nice layer of safety that she will hopefully be reapplying every few turns. Well, whether she's actually going to be able to do that or not is questionable, because it'll probably overlap unless she actually gets hit hard enough to consume it. But yeah, it's there. She's definitely not Saturnus, so good for her. True. Snegurochka Waku. Very pretty of her best skill. I mean, I guess that counts as a skill. I want to translate her lines. Amano Jaku. Please do Hippolytus to Lamau. I barely even remember what Hippolytus does.
It's just heal reversal or HP loss reversal is his main thing.
Wow.
He has a few other things, but it's not
another unit who can do that. We'll talk about him later, though.
I mean, he does it better than the unit we're going to talk about later. So let's move on. We are now going to be talking about the unit Tianzun, the villain of this event. Okay, so he is a 4-star ether shot unit with magic range damage belonging to the Gurus. To get this out of the way, he has 9 different buffs, since he does have an after buff effect somewhere in his kit. He has on arrival taunt strengthening and increased movement phase start. Post move, he has drain advantage, taunt, tenacity, and limit. And before being hit, he has evasion, and on charge he has ardor. So quite a bit to get his buffs going on. It's not too important for what the effect will turn out to be, as you'll see, but that's there. So, to start off the bat, he is a repositioner. You do want to move him quite a lot anyway, so it is good that he does have a lot of he has utility for repositioning in this kit, including extended movement on the first turn of each phase in all directions, as well as the ability to resist fear, so that he is not denied that opportunity, in particular with his own fear, which might be reflected back at him, but it won't matter because he resists it. In addition, he has a staggered team skill activation rate modification. What this means is that he both boosts his team's skill activation rate as well as decreases the enemies. So he applies Glint to himself as well as allies that are adjacent to him every time he moves at a 90% rate. So again, works with that repositioning. Also on move, he applies Drain in a 3x3 box ahead of him, to enemies also at 9% rate. Works with repositioning. He's going to be moving a lot, he's going to be applying those a lot. So the most important part of this kit is actually going to be, well, the most relevant for most people. It's going to be the aspect of him being a damage dealer and damage amp for his team. So he does provide team amp to his team as well as himself. He has a limit to self as well as allies encircling him every time he moves. Again, another move effect. You don't want to move him constantly. Do not bring another mover with unit, most likely you will not have a good time. He does have a lot of conditional team amp too that works well, or works in synchrony with the rest of his on-move effects. So he does have that. He does apply drain, as I said, and he has a double advantage effect where he both gives the enemies weakening effect, where they'll take 1.5 times more damage if they have drain, and this is just instantly to all enemies on phase start. He doesn't need to move for that. Everyone's just weakened as long as they have drain. He also applies drain advantage to allies, 1.5 damage, 1.5 times damage to be specific, to allies encircling him. Post move also 9%, which works with his application of drain in both senses. I forget the exact multiplier for that. It should be like a bit over 2 times though if you have both, 1.5 times multipliers. And another effect that works with him constantly wanting to move is the fact that he has taunt strengthening to himself as well as allies on the entire board on arrival for the first 10 turns of battle. He has, or he applies it for 1.5 times as long as his allies have taunt, and he can apply taunt himself to himself as well as his allies every time he moves, and I believe that's just guaranteed. Yes, it is. So yeah, you're gonna want to move him for taunt as well as taunt strengthening. You're gonna want to move him to inflict drain, so you can get both drain advantage as well as drain weakening going on, and that alongside limit adds up to a good amount of damage. In addition to that, he also has more secondarily mid uptime charge. He does have an after buff effect where every time he receives the buffs, he fills his charge for 6 CP at a shaky 50% rate. That is not great, but he does have quite a few buffs. As I said before, he does have 9 buffs that he can apply to himself. So pretty self-sufficient when it comes to that, even if it's not very reliable. And he does have that glint, which can change things up, as I mentioned before. Make the rest of the buffs a bit more reliable too. And besides that, he also does have what's called on his charge itself. He does deal a bit more damage on top of that, was dealing 1.5 times damage to fear, but only on his charge. So he does apply fear already when he attacks units, but that does not matter because he already applies fear immediately on his charge. So you do not need to think about the synergies between his regular kit fear and his fear advantage in his charge. He just gives it free on his charge. And lastly, he gives Ardor to himself on charge, which can boost his damage even slightly further. So the damage amp potential for Tianzun, to give an idea, with all his 1.5 times multipliers as well as limit. So drain to drain, 1.5 times damage to drain, to dealing 1.5 times damage if to enemies with drain, alongside with taunt and dealing 1.5 times damage to taunt, and limit that is around slightly under 7 times damage, or 6.75 to be exact. So his personal damage potential is going to be, with all those amps, 12,000 damage per square, so it is breaking that 10k mark of doing decent damage. And if he does get his charge up, it's not too much more, but it is at 42,000 damage if he does have taunt and drain and the sphere, which he will have up at artifact level 1. But he can constantly apply reliably. It's not like it's a one-time thing. Well, the taunt is gonna only last for the first 10 turns, but if you're aiming for damage for a certain team, you're probably gonna want to quickly repeat anyways. Besides, it's only 1.5 times multiplier. You're not gonna be missing out if it runs out too much. But yeah, his secondary utility, I mean, I wouldn't say it's secondary, but more like less important, but is also generally about as strong. Maybe not about as strong, but decent. He can tank, not just for himself, but for his team. He applies tenacity to self as well as his allies every time he moves. Kind of a crappy rate of 80%. That's not really salvageable by skill seeding, and it's not going to be out of sync with his glint as well, so that's not very great. But it's not the only source of his tanking. He does also apply evasion to himself before he is hit at a low 28% rate, should be 30% as long as he moves for that glint. And he does resist fear and drain, so he can keep on functioning for his reliability as well as his ability to constantly move to get his effects up. So he should be there should be no problem to face him against someone who has reflect debuff, because both fear and drain, the things that he applies is constantly, are not going to be things that he'll ever have to fear himself. Alongside with his tanking, as I mentioned before, on charge as well as on his regular attack, only at 70%, he does inflict fear, so kind of like an unorthodox way of tanking, but you can, like in a Gen 1 style of this game, fear units and then sort of just stall from the side to poke them with other units so that they can't hit you while you hit them. And lastly, they also, another unorthodox way of tanking is being a charge denier. He denies the enemy their charge because drain does have an effect that's not just a nothing effect, even though it kind of is. It does reduce the enemy's both their reliability as well as their charge fill or their charge meter every turn. So that, in addition to fear, which also reduces the enemy's charge meter every turn, will prevent them from getting their charge, generally speaking, unless they have some effect that just gives them 100 CP at the end of the turn, but you wouldn't be able to avoid for the most. But yeah, besides that, the only thing that kind of is out of place from everything else is he gives 4 CP to allies on his charge, adjacent to him on charge, which is like, that's there. It doesn't synergize with literally anything else in his kit, but it's there. But yeah, so what would I recommend with our dear Tianzun here? He is okay with units that have taunt strengthening built in their kits because he can freely apply to allies. Not something you see too often. Sometimes it's in a few ARs, and even then that's kind of restrictive to who exactly can use it. So Sasago's Fashionista variant, I believe, has taunt strengthening, which massively boosts his rates so that he can apply evasion to the units behind him. There's also Nightmare Alp, who has a bunch of taunt stanks but does not actually have this version of taunt, the base non-stackable version. Amdusias also has taunt strengthening, and it's actually quite good on him because, well, maybe not quite good on him. It's locked behind his charge, which he gets very quickly anyways, but it isn't instant necessarily. If you are having a hard time getting his charge consistently up, you can get his damage, which is heavily locked behind having taunt, consistently up with Tianzun. And you can also get a bit of additional movement as a result of that too, since Tianzun does have that movement advantage. You can bring him with Saturnus, I guess, if you want 2 times damage, because he does.
No, I was going to say that.
Okay. You really have every note written down for Saturnus.
Well, yeah, it's just for the meme. Yeah, Saturnus has Taunt Strengthening, which is the ×2 damage buff, while he has Taunt, which he can only gain from his CP, with his CS, which he cannot gain his CS because he has no method
He's
of
fixed
genning
now.
CP.
Everyone, run home and tell all your friends. Saturnus is fixed.
So, he can now easily get that 2 times damage buff to buff his almost Leonan tier damage.
Fixed. Anyway, let's move on. Last
Don't
suggestion.
do that.
Yeah, please don't. Last suggestion among the taunt strengtheners is going to be Ombre Tigre's Virtual Summer Memory variant. I do believe he has also maybe increased rate or something like that to make his limit more reliable.
Yeah, it's like plus 30% or something like that to make his guts more confirmable.
Yeah, he's a guts tank, but it's like low rate unless he has limit, which is taunt, which is on his charge. In which case, it's still not guaranteed, but it is quite high, so you can pair him up with that, I guess. These are kind of niche strategies, though. I'm not sure how important taunt strengthening is. I mean, they're not bad, strengthening effects, for sure, but, would you build an entire team around it? I mean, you're gonna need to figure it out yourself and try it out yourself to see if it's worth it. Lastly, Sorry, what?
What?
Okay, I thought you said something, never mind. Lastly, he does apply team-wide damage and defense sample with his move utility, which means he's just good for his skirmishing in general, which, I forgot to switch the footage. Zalgus, please, if you're watching the thing, point it out.
Right.
Hey, Jesus Christ.
I'm watching, but I'm not looking at the footage.
I'm looking at my notes here, Jesus. Okay. Anyway, there's your Tianzun footage. Hopefully you can at least see a loop once before we finish this topic. Thanks, Zalgus.
Just read the comments slowly.
Alright. So he is able to substitute for single target supports like Lianin or Sanzo, because he does give a significant amount of amp, but he does actually apply it for his entire team. So it's quite good. He does have a restriction when it comes to a trade-off for the effect range. It kind of only applies to the entire board if it's like a tall map, but the fact that there is any map that can apply to the entire board is good enough so that Tianzun ends up being like a Lianin for tall maps for your entire team, which is nice in that sense. But, you know, for large maps, he still has this, you know, skirmishing utility. You can see in his footage here. But while he does make a decent tank, he does kind of lack other important tank utilities like healing and debuff mitigation. So you may want to bring one other like auxiliary tank to round it off and make that skirmishing a lot more sustainable with Tianzun. But yeah, that is all my thoughts on Tianzun, the hottest Santa unit.
I can't believe you took both of the things I was going to talk about. I was also going to mention Lianan. But anyway, another thing is that his movement expansion is only for one turn. I think one of maybe even the more understated things about Lianan is that her Omni movement is completely permanent. And Tianzun doesn't have that. It's only for one turn. So in the event that you do fail to kill the enemies, for example, in large maps, you might find yourself really wanting that expanded movement that you no longer have. So that is also a consideration. But yeah, in terms of team buffing, he's obviously better than Lianan because she doesn't team buff. So yeah, his amps are like perfectly respectable. But he could never be Lianan.
What? No,
no, no, that's just me. I'm kidding. No, yeah, he's like competitive. One might even say better than Lianan, unless you really need Lianan's permanent movement, or she's way better at CP batterying because she gives like a ton of CP to the person in front. But yeah, honestly, I'd say she's a very good comparison point for him because they both serve similar functions, but they're also distinct.
I'd say generally Tianzun is better than Lianan, but it's kind of hard to believe that because Lianan has that reputation of being like the easy win unit, and Tianzun decidedly doesn't from looking at this kit, but that's why the Lianan comparison is important. Just looking at it objectively, they are quite similar, and Tianzun does just have a better range for everything, so if you feel underwhelmed by Tianzun, just, you know, remember there are many metrics you can say he's just like much better than Lianan. Like,
I mean, if you're using Lianan, what you're probably doing is hyper carry strats with you know, one focus, which she's better at because she gives more damage to that one target.
It's not that much more.
It's like 11 point something to his like
nearly 7. I mean, that's just like one multiplier, so that's not that much. That's less than one multiplier.
It kind of is. But yeah, you know, these days we do a lot of hyper carry strats with one damage carry like Oscar or something. So, although Lianan's not necessarily compatible with a lot of our other ones, I mean, you wouldn't even. I wouldn't even recommend you use Lianan with Oscar. I recommend Mephisto if you really want to be lazy. But anyway, yeah, they're similar, but they have their own niches, so I think that's interesting enough. And he's certainly no flop unit, he's perfectly serviceable. Although, since Milk and Harvey aren't here, I will say it's funny that his kit is quite similar to Mononobe, but worse.
How so?
Well, besides the fact that the damage buffs, like the numbers are simply just worse. You know, he has Omni movement, whereas Kyoma forgoes that by just pulling everyone to him instead. So, I'd say that's much better because there's no chance that Kyoma will fail to be in range of everyone. And then he has like the fear, or was it drain, or I forget which one.
I don't think this is a good comparison, honestly. But I
mean,
think I
that's
get
what they were complaining about.
I get the strand of what you're saying, but it's less them being similar and more so them just having the role of a do everything general purpose unit. Except in this case, Tianzun is actually balanced for that. Meanwhile, Mononobe is awful for this game and shouldn't have never released.
Oh yeah, I see now. Kyoma has fear and drain, but Kyoma is global, of course, but Tianzun is only local.
Yeah. But yeah, I think these comparisons are important because I know a lot of people may have been disappointed by Tianzun's kit, but objectively speaking, looking at the numbers and the ranges and all that, he's like better than a lot of classic good units. So, not bad, but like it's definitely dated. Or maybe we should just let go of believing Lianen's actually a good unit now. Maybe that's the truth. Not that Tianzun's like actually really good, but more so Lianen's actually not as good as we're remembering, or has become deprecated. But let her go. Lianen med is over.
She will never die. She will never be a memory, or whatever Sephiroth says.
I don't even use her for like a million years, except for that one Kasuga demonstration.
I do, but only because I'm using Masashi strats.
Alright. I think we're done talking about Tianzun for now, so I'm gonna go read out the chat.
Has the footage looped? Yeah, it has. Of course
a few
it
times,
has.
Alright. Let's see. Retaunt, good from Duchess. Yep, you definitely preempted me from that. Be correct for that, Gazer. You didn't notice Gordon likes Tianzun. Wonder why that is. Probably because they're both degenerates and they both like to travel. I don't know. There's probably a specific description for it somewhere. But
they both wear racy costumes.
I don't think Gordon necessarily likes to wear racy costumes. That's just like the world of Afkari in general. But yeah, feel free to check out the Afkari translations to get a better idea of Gordon. I can sort of see, I can't describe it fully in words, but I sort of see them piping together. You think he sounds like Eggman? Maybe I haven't heard Eggman's voice in Wells, but if you mean like Japanese Eggman, I've never heard him specifically. Oh, you just noticed the footage is still Snegurochka. See, even I noticed. I should have read chat sooner. God damn it. Tianzun is fine. He just wished his drain was applied to the same area as his drain weakness debuff, because all other drain spreaders units are real S. Drain was applied to the same areas as drain weakness debuff? Is that not applied in... wait, his drain weakness is applied to the entire board, isn't it? Are you saying you want it to apply to the entire board or something? That's a bit much in terms of, it would kind of make the whole advantage thing kind of pointless. I think it's fine that it's restricted. It's a balancing mechanism. Saturnus, sob. I feel that. Fashionista Sasagwa has taunt strengthening for what that matters. Yeah, if you want that higher rate of evasion to your entire team. Whoa, 2 times damage off Saturnus' 4,000 max attack. I know, real. Saturnus damage dealer coming to a theater near you. Sanzo, taunt strengthening. Read the next comment, please. Mononobe at home? Definitely not. Whoops, forgot that Mononobe spreads drain too, so not all other drain spreaders are ass. I mean, I don't think he spreads drain at a great rate either, but, he's good for other reasons, not that. Slut Quarenta. So true. Okay, so we will be talking next about the other variant 4-star of this event. And this time I will switch the footage.
More like.
So, go ahead. Zalgus, the best kid of this banner! Go.
Wow. So, Yoshito, the unfortunate one, is here with the kit of all time. Let's talk about why it's mediocre. So, first of all, Yoshito mainly revolves around his many on-move effects, so that makes it prime importance to move him. Personally, I believe when thinking about, new units, it's important to note whether you're going to be moving them every turn or not. And he definitely wants to move every turn. Which, honestly, I'd say for a lot of units, that's actually a strike against them, because that limits their team building. Anyway. On phase start, he applies slash weakness to all enemies, and also pulls enemies in a 3x3 space in 1. The pull is at least guaranteed, but it's only once, which is kind of lame, because we have units like Boogeyman who exist who can spam pulls, or Vanilla Behemoth 4 with his Evo who can pull by 2 spaces. Yoshito's pretty limited in range, so he really would have appreciated a much more powerful pull than that. But he didn't get that, so... the slash weakness that he bestows is somewhat interesting, but it necessitates that you build a team of slash damage dealers, which aren't exactly commonplace. Most meta damaging units are like magic and all range. You know, you generally want the range. Like most maps aren't small maps or wide maps, and even on wide maps, you want long slashes anyway.
It's funny because they did start releasing more front row clearers, but they're like all long slash. There's still not very many good slash damage dealers.
Yeah, it's a really narrow window of units to use, and it's really questionable if you want to even use them. And also, it wouldn't work with someone like Oz because they're no longer slashed. So great. At any rate, onto his on-move kit.
Oh.
What?
Well, we can comment on that later, but...
You comment on what?
We're forgetting about Heracles! Ooh!
I was trying to remember if there was any units who did it, and I was like, if I forgot about them, it must not be important.
We did it.
And I was right.
Good. Yoshito's good. Surely.
Definitely not the fucking slowest 5-star ever. Anyway, so to his allies when he moves, he bestows HP loss reversal, nourishment, and evasion, but only on turn 1. And this is to the left and right of him, with some of them spreading farther to the left and right. And to himself, he bestows tenacity and also the HP loss reversal. I mean, sure, I guess. HP loss reversal is not very impressive, and it's also very niche. Nourishment is whatever. Evasion is nice to, you know, tank for 1 turn on the front lines, because that's what's going to need to happen. But it only lasts 1 turn, so not great. And tenacity to himself, sure, but it really would have been better if he also applied it to allies. The main gimmick of his kit, besides his slash weakness, is to enemies in a 2x3 range, he inflicts weapon change slash, and in a slash thrust range, he inflicts buff reversal. So this range is pretty pitiful, unfortunately. First of all, his weapon change and his buff reversal don't overlap. So enemies that are coming at him from that blind spot in the top left and top right, those will be coming in and hitting at full force because they don't have buff reversal. So secondly, the 2x3 range is also pretty awful to use. On a tall map, you might have an okay time inflicting the weapon change slash, assuming they aren't stacked up in all like with 3 people in 1 column, because that's going to prevent him from even pulling the person in the back. Or if Yoshito doesn't spawn in the center, he won't pull all tiles. But if you're in any large map, then Yoshito's really going to have a bad time. I mean, he shouldn't be using slash units in a big map anyway, but yeah, he'll be completely out of range, and he's going to have trouble disabling enemies that are all with such a wimpy range. Like, you know, they're going to be hiding in the back, they're going to be, you know, too far to the left or right of him or whatever. So it's an awful disabling range, and the buff reversal is even worse, because, like, he can, you know, he got thrust range at most to try and, you know, disable enemies in the back, which... not what you want from his primary means of defense. And even if he does disable them with weapon change slash, it's a really slow method of clearing. You're going to be waiting as the slash changed enemies slowly move down into what can be described as your meat grinder team of slash units up front, while they, you know, slowly file in, when you could just be using a team of longer range units to take them out quickly and efficiently. Like, you know, we have, you know, any number of magic range burst units, like, you know, I mean, obviously the peak is Willy, but we don't even have to go with that. There are plenty besides that. Or you could use like all range units or whatever. Even short range units would be better. I say like short range units are bad. But as far as disabling goes, we also have much better ranges for that already. Like, again, if I want to talk about the peak, for example, just last stream we covered Halloween Azathoth, who at launch, mind you, was already able to globally disable enemies with long slash at launch. None of this namby-pamby move for a 2x3 range. He just does it. Or even like way farther back, we have Li Cho, who can change enemies to blow range with his own magic range attack, which is much more flexible than whatever Yoshito is pulling here. I mean, there's the debate of Li Cho's effective, because he only has a 70% rate, but that's easily patched up. So yeah, disabling enemies, he's not that great at that, or rather he's outclassed at that. Also, Yoshito doesn't even defend his allies past turn 1, because like I said, his tenacity is selfish and his evasion is turn 1. He does have the 500 HP heal on hit, but for some reason it's at a stupid 70% rate. And he also has this other healing reversal thing on hit, but that's at an even worse rate of 40%. I mean, I don't know why I say that as if that assists your allies, but
Yoshito yeah, that's clearly released so that Apollos would look better.
Yeah, that's a stupid healing reversal thing. It's pointless. 40%. But yeah, if it wasn't clear, Yoshito's kit is also filled with a bunch of unguaranteeable things for no reason too. Just another mark against him. Like, not even just that 40% healing reversal, the buff reversal's 80%, which again is a big problem because that's one of his main methods of damage mitigation, and he can't guarantee it without help from someone else, because he needs glint or concentration, or I guess what's it called, affiliations, but I don't know if you don't want to do that for this. Yeah, so Yoshito's kit is very messy. Ostensibly, he's supposed to promote like this slash-centric gameplay by forcibly chaining enemies to slash, weakening them, and then empowering your own slash team to beat them out, but he's really bad at it. He can't pull enemies in past phase 1 or phase start, so enemies are going to trickle in slowly, which, besides being slow, it means there's a chance he won't even be able to reach enemies to weapon change them if they're hiding in the back. To say nothing of like all range and slash units who are going to actively move away from you if he can't change them in time. And like, he's so bad at actually tipping the scales in your team's favor, because not only is buffer vessel not guaranteeable, it's got even worse range than the weapon change slash that doesn't fully overlap. So you might just be bringing in slash enemies who are going to do full damage to you, which given his inability to actually defend his team, he might actually just be getting them killed if a bunch of slash units start, slashing you, which, I mean, that probably won't happen, because if they trickle in one at a time, you're going to be buff reversing them, but never mind. And his sustain for his own team is mediocre, because you're relying on a 70% proc rate and nourishment, and also, as we've discussed in the past, healing is generally not really that desirable unless you actually have mitigation to pair with it, which he doesn't, except himself. And also, he doesn't even heal himself. So not only is his team dying because they get hit too hard, he's dying because he's not healing himself. Yeah, so buff reversal, not guaranteed to be inflicted on enemy attackers before they come in, and it does nothing to enemies he can't actually reach. So in summary, he's a support who tries to get everyone to slash each other with your team at an advantage, but all of that is like a questionable proposition. And besides the dubious efficacy of the slash-based team, he doesn't even do any of it very well. Like, he really would have benefited from, like, just constant pulling. Or, just better ranges on his weapon change and buff reversal.
Pull and move would be nice.
Yeah, horizontal or vertical movement or anything would have been nice, but, in this day and age where we have a unit like Hazathoth, which is unfair because he's obviously overpowered, but it's sad that we have a kit like this. Like, it's very bad. It's not wholly unusable, but you know, there are so many better options, so many better game plans that you're actively challenging yourself by using this. Which, I mean, some would say that's part of the fun, but not in this case for me. I didn't even mention his CS, but he can't really build up his CS that well, so there's no point in talking about it.
I'm speechless. Are you done your thoughts, or?
Yeah.
Well, he's worse than you think. It's just like he has a bunch of these effects, which, like, you know, on the surface, I rated him like 1 star in my review because, technically speaking, he has a lot of utility. It's there, right? Lots of niche stuff that could be good. Between weapon change to something unique to HP loss reversal and healing reversal, lots of quirky stuff that situational, but I feel like I should have even rated him lower, and this was after a rewrite that rated him lower already. He, Zalgus has, you know, talked about all this time, but I'm gonna give you some practical idea of it. This footage took me the most attempts to take out of everyone, maybe like 7 or 8 clips, because Yoshito fucking sucks. He does nothing defensively. It's like you want to bring him for large maps, right? But he has no extended movement. So I'm bringing Zal, and you know he doesn't apply any defensive things unless he moves himself. So like Zal keeps on dying, which is why I brought the Guts AR on him, and I can't even defend him after turn 1 anyways because the evasion is only for that first turn. So it's like you're struggling to reposition all your shit slash range units together, and you waste your evasion turn doing that. And now it's like, you know, you're trying to kill units with the pull, but you know you just have to reposition everyone out of the way. So it's like now people are just trickling in one at a time in this very awkward way where you can't defend that well against, because you know you just give them slash range to then move in front and hit your entire team, while you know they might not even have buff reversal, which is not guaranteeable. And like he has no way of denying their movements too at this point. Like Raven Arthur might have been more useful for shit like that. It's his utility, while useful when it does count, is like situational, and in practice actually playing with him, not only is it like you know difficult to play with him well, but it doesn't feel good. It feels extremely unsatisfying. It's hard to describe this, but like the actual experience of playing with Yoshito is like very viscerally unpleasant. You're like bringing him and you're dying anyways despite moving him constantly, and like the units you want healed are not being healed, and the defenses are not happening, and like yeah, it's like you have to poke at people on the side or something by unpositioning everyone, and then they won't be ready for the pull for the next turn because they'll be out of position, and it's only for like one thing, and like you just have to bring a bunch of other slash units that are overpowered in their own right to make him actually useful, because he is not, as a unit that's moving constantly as a slash unit, he is not going to be a good centerpiece to those other slash units, so they need to be carrying in their own right. So it's like it's very unfun to play with him. It's like I would strongly recommend against pulling him, even if he technically has utility, because he's like the antithesis of why you play this game. He just does not make this game enjoyable at all. It makes you hate it.
I mean, I don't know. You say it's the antithesis of why you play this game, but if they like Yoshito, isn't that enough to pull him?
That's not playing the game. That's, you know, playing the gacha, but I'm talking about the battles. He's the antithesis of playing the battles. It's not fun at all.
Yeah, but I like in this footage that you demonstrate a few times where, you know, you clear out the front line, and then someone else on the enemy team will now move forward and clog up the space so you can't advance.
Yeah, it's fucking miserable. It's like the worst experience ever, and you can't do anything about it because that's how it's designed, one pull only, and then it's like no one's even in position at that point, and it's fucking dumb. It's such an awful unit, like overall.
Oh.
Like,
yeah.
He has stuff. I'm not gonna give him 0 stars, but it's like very unpleasant to play with him. Like 0 out of 5 in terms of enjoyability.
As I mentioned it, but I didn't really impress upon it, and this footage makes it clear. But it really sucks that you have a primary moving unit that is Yoshito with no expanded movement. Like, I mean, Ara took him in a wide map here, which in theory he should be good against because, you know, enemies will always be in his range, left and right notwithstanding, but, you know, he has to be able to move into the center quickly. He can't do that because he has no expanded movement. So, yeah, that really sucks.
Yoshito does really suck, you're right.
And you should have done it on a small map. I was making a joke earlier about how if it's a small map, then they will always be in his range, but that's obviously a joke suggestion because no relevant maps are ever small, so...
I mean, boss maps sometimes are, but he's not good at boss maps either, so... Garbage! Anyways, let's... I
mean, I guess the idea, possibly, is that he's supposed to kind of pair with Mori, who... you know, is a slash unit who is supposed to be up front and also can cover for a few of Yoshito's weakness because he, like, bestows protection to allies and whatnot. But Moritaka also wants to move. So, it doesn't even work in that respect. Moritaka also has parry adept, meaning he takes decreased damage from
I don't know why he... see,
units.
It's like you'd think that slash synergy would make sense, but there's not really any slash synergy here. Fucking... If you're gonna give them weapon change, at least give your team weapon change or, you know, slash resistance at the same time. Why are you, like, giving advantage or, you know, strengthening slash damage against enemies? That's, like, not even related to the changing their weapon change to slash. It's like, unless you steal it back through some incredibly dumb shit. It's like, why? Where's the synergy in this? Fucking hell.
A lot of buff stealers can't even take weapon change, can they? So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, truly an enigma. He might have been a bit better if instead of applying buff reversal, he applied, like, you know, slash advantage or, you know, defense against slash, and change what's called making enemies weak to slash is, like, not particularly good if the only unit by default that goes with them is himself. That's slash. And then you bring the rest as slash, which is just making your team weaker and weaker as a result because he's not particularly good to synergize with slash units in the first place. Like, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, you can read out the chat for this unit.
You should have paired Halloween Jacob or Valentine's Jacob with him, say he did the buff reversal for him. No, not really.
I don't have Valentine Jacob.
I do.
I don't have Yoshito.
Oh. Let's see. Peak art. Ass kit. Yeah, I mean, I think his art's pleasant enough. Although, of course, I very much like all the Hakenshi scattered around. He's missing the most important one. Yeah. The kit is, not it. Send it back to the kitchen or something. My precious doggo, what were they cooking when they came up with your kit? The LifeWonders dartboard strikes again. Yoshito's just like me, for real. There's surely a joke here that is mean somewhere, but a million on-move skills with no movement expansion. Yeah. So wow, Summer Heracles support right before his rerun yet next year. Oh, right, yeah, I'd forgotten about that, but yeah, Ara mentioned Summer Heracles. I believe, off the top of my head, it's because he's magic range, but he changes to weapon slash in the middle of his attack, so he'll then for the rest of that attack gain the best modifier from slash, but also be eligible for Yoshito's damage boost, which is like, if you're doing all of that for a 2x5 damage amp, just bring a damage buffer. Because, mind, Yoshito doesn't actually buff damage besides nourishment and buff reversal.
Yeah, that's another thing. Is it really worth bringing, you know, a slash team just for the single amp that could be replaced by something like Berserk or Rage or some shit like that? And it only lasts for 3 turns, and it's not refreshable, and just by bringing slash units in its own nature, it's gonna gimp your team severely.
You know, I didn't even mention that it wasn't permanent. So, yeah, that's another thing. That because by nature of changing all the enemies to slash, it slows things down dramatically. What's going to happen is that the damage debuff or defense debuff is actually going to wear off, and now you're getting no benefit from your slash units. because he just slowed everything down so much.
Everyone's just patiently waiting for the trickle to finish, and then by the time they can reach the back, it's already run out. Very cool game.
Yeah, again, if Yoshito had a constant pull, this wouldn't be a problem. Well, it would be less of a problem. Yeah, I think it would still be a problem, possibly, based on enemy formations, but I mean, if you're meat grinding them on time, then, you know, you should be able to carve through 3 rows before it wears off. But yeah, it doesn't. It does not work. It does not blend, unfortunately. The blender gets jammed. If only there was a unit who didn't need to move, change everyone's weapon range, and spread evasion while getting stronger as the battle goes on. Who could that be? Distant, unhinged child laughter in the distance. God, Yoshito doesn't even get a board-wide pull. That's pathetic. Yeah, like, I mean, like, his pull right now, like, in the old days would have been, you know, quite respectable. Like, you know, a decent range pull that is 100% guaranteed.
I don't think so.
This is not...
We got Omri Tigre, and he had the same pull, and it wasn't particularly useful then either.
I mean, I find it useful sometimes.
Okay.
But again... when I say things are useful, that's because they're for my own niche strategies that are severely gimped.
Well, Yoshito certainly is niche, so there you go.
No, I will not be doing a clear video with him. Although that would be an amusing roast, as the kids say. Although I don't think he needs any roasting. Sath, I forget what the name of that one is. Sathogwa or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very useful skill of our dog warrior. His brain is too full of Muritaka to do anything else. Yeah. Also, this is going to end up being the longest section, isn't it?
Sorry?
This is going to end up being the longest section, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, people are probably going to talk a lot about either Korpokkur or Hastur, but we'll see. Anyways, speaking of, we should move on to the next topic. It's going to be everyone's favorite unit that deservedly received a good kit. Hastur! Amazing.
Whoa.
Yum yum. Such a good 5-star yummers. Okay. Let's read his kit. Delectable dragon old ones, prince of the old ones. So, Hastur. He is a variant of a 5-star fire attributes at snipe range, both for his regular and charge attack, belonging to the Beast Tamers. So, he is, starting off right off the bat, he is a full health conditional activation. Sorry, he has a conditional activation rate up to himself when he's at full health. So, the reason why I start with this is because it's probably going to be like the one you're going to use him for most general purpose content most frequently, and also it's the first role to disappear in comparison to the rest of his kit. So he does have a concentration to himself on turn start, which is guaranteeable. Bizarrely enough, not guaranteed, but it is there. You can guarantee it if you want, so he can get damage. And of course, that is only gonna last as long as he doesn't take any damage, which is a bit of antithetical to the rest of his kit. But well, less on that right now. He does have that concentration as mentioned before, and he has Ardor to himself before he attacks. He also resists Dazzle, so his damage will be consistently high, and he won't ever get like reflect debuff from his own Dazzle, kind of like Tianzun with his own debuffs not reflecting to him. And he does have a bit of additional damage by dealing 3 times damage to countdown on his charge only, which he does inflict at the same time on his charge only. And that countdown does strike full enemies left and right for a bit of flat damage. And he does additionally give some team damage amp as well, not just to his allies but himself. Namely, he does confer a minor 1.5 times damage boost to his entire team indefinitely as long as they have protection, which he gives board-wide guaranteed off the bat on phase start, as well as to his allies and himself surrounding him at a percent rate. So not guaranteeable for some reason. It's Hastur. But yeah, his damage potential when he is calm clearing with his concentration and ardor and protection strengthening is going to be a bit over 10,000, so 11,000 damage per square. So it is breaking that 10,000, which, you know, good job, 5-star unit. You're breaking 10,000. Only at full health. Anyway, at least he saw it, but we're going to talk about the other part of his kit, which contradicts that, which is him being a tanker / team healer. Or he does have protection, as I mentioned, both on phase start as well as on turn start at an 80% non-guaranteeable rate, not even with that concentration, since the timing will roll at the same time. And he does mitigate damage by applying Dazzle to enemies when he attacks, and he spreads it to the enemies left and right of those he attacks as well. He, importantly, is an HP dependent tank. So while that protection is going off constantly, he has some additional, and while he is dazzling units at the same time, when he is hit rather than when he's attacking, he can apply additional defense buffs below certain HP thresholds, but stops or stands in the face of the concentration being only at 100 HP. But let's more that later. So he has Unction to himself and allies encircling him when he's at less than 80% HP, and he has Tenacity to himself as well as allies encircling him at turn start when he's at less than 50%. And those are guaranteeable, not guaranteed, because of course. And lastly, he is a healer. Yes, we're already at the last topic here. He is a healer, mostly to his allies, to encircling him every time he hits a unit with his snipe range at 60% for one trigger, but also to adjacent units, he has another proc for healing at 80% rate, the same amount of his 300 HP. So he can, units that are directly beside him, heal potentially up to 600 HP for every enemy he hits, which is the same amount as like Blessing per turn, I believe. So it's good in that sort of comparison. And healing is proportionally much stronger as long as there's a bunch of defensive amps going up, which is he might have if he doesn't die instantly. But yeah, he does have that healing going on, and he does have combo on turn start if he's at critically low HP, which is thankfully guaranteed, but is also kind of questionable use because the only thing he does is supposed to he is intended to do that is to get more healing procs off. I mean, I guess he won't be killing the enemy because he won't have concentration and he'll have combo instead. So he'll be getting potentially 12,000 or 1,200 HP for every enemy he hits that are to allies that are adjacent to him. And since he's snipe range, that could be up to like 3,600 HP. Wow, 3,600 HP per turn as long as there's 3 enemies in his column and every single thing goes off. Amazing. He also has nourishment to allies, which is there to add to the healing only on phase start. And the Unction does contribute to healing too, about like 300 HP I believe per turn. And lastly, his only source of self-healing is on his charge, which, if you noticed, I did not mention any way to get his charge because he doesn't have one, so I don't know how practical that is, but he does have a way to get his healing on himself that is enhanced to both himself and his entire team, 1,000 HP. Pretty meaty for every enemy he hits. And if you do have that increased recovery, then that 1,200 mentioned before turns into 1,800, which can go into like 3,600 and 5,200 or something like that, 5,400 rather. A good amount of HP, but very situational if you can actually bring his HP that low without killing him, because as for someone who wants to have low HP in order to get his max defense, it doesn't seem like he's well curated for it, because he does not have guts anywhere in his kit. So if, for example, he's at full HP and someone just instantly hits him with some extreme damage or pierces his defense, which by the way he's vulnerable to no matter what, if like enemies pierce his defense, then he's dead and you lost your main tank. So of course defense pierces aren't too common from the enemies, but big instant damage isn't too rare. So if you're not careful with Hastur and if he's like instantly killed, probably not likely, but if he is, then you're not going to be taking advantage of Unction or Tenacity, and you're going to lose your chance to hyper tank. So you may want to bring someone who has guts, and again, contradicting his whole wanting to be at low HP is like, it does not work with his ability to do damage. I guess the idea is you don't want him to be killing at low health so that he can get more procs for healing instead. so he can hit them with both hits of combo with his very low damage. I mean, I guess Arthur can help him get charge, but yeah, he's he does stuff. He tanks sometimes if he doesn't die instantly. Never mind the fact that he's only at like 0 HP here because he doesn't have any healing in whatsoever to himself. But yeah, pretty good pair with Nightglow's Cthulhu, since he does give a bunch of guts to his entire team while also reducing his own allies' HP. But yeah, that's kind of all my thoughts on
I think
Hastur.
the previous old one was better.
Are you talking about Azathoth, or are you talking about...
Yes.
Oh, I see. Perhaps. Just a smidge.
I mean, every time we mention Azathoth, it's cheating. But anyway, yeah, Hastur. I mean, an automatic defensive unit is one of those things that would have been better, longer ago. Like, he reminds me of, like, Eisen, Snow, but he doesn't need to move. But we are long since past the day and age of that. And that's why Christmas Tindalos in the past went from a supreme defensive unit to a supreme defensive unit who also has offensive utility. And I mean, Hastur doesn't really have that at all because his defenses are all selfish, besides nourishment. So, yeah, not the most impressive. I mean, again, serviceable. You can use him if you really want. Like, you can make use of the protection and you can build around it. Maybe give him a guts unit to assist him, but it's just not very impressive, especially not next to the other 5-star, but more on that later. It did midster or whatever.
Is that the full extent of your thoughts?
I don't know, maybe they'll give him a skill evo like Summer Tindaloses, where like he just becomes a attack totem.
I mean, a defensive totem, I'm usually a fan of them, but the fact that he can't get up instantly and it's just, it contradicts his damage with like Tindalos, where Tindalos just does both at the same time. Like, bruh.
I mean, maybe compare him to Vanilla Tindaloses, or as in, launch Summer Tindalos.
Surely he'll get an evo, but more likely the next unit's about to get an evo instead. What do you think of his art, by the way?
I mean, Hastur's fine, so, character-wise, he's whatever for me, but I only just realized this a bit earlier, but something about the angle that he's standing at is weird. He's, like, doing the boobs and butt pose.
Oh.
Like, if you look at his legs, they're turned very severely, where his chest is turning towards us.
I mean, he's twisting his body, obviously, so...
Yeah.
It's...
Don't worry. He'll throw out his back in a moment. But anyway, yeah, he looks nice enough. It's not the most interesting thing for me. I mean, also, I don't go for the whole Christmas bright-ass red and white thing, so, it doesn't apply to me in that way. But I do enjoy myself a nice waistcoat.
Yeah, it's giving Apollo justice.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I guess he had the red and white, and I didn't mind it on him. But I don't know, maybe that's because it wasn't as shiny. Or because I wasn't associating it with Christmas, which it's kind of played out for me.
In any case, I like how he looks. It's pretty formal. It does remind me of like that sort of Apollo Justice lawyer type deal. It's a creative take. It's not necessarily a Santa outfit, while still keeping the Santa themes of red and white. I'm kind of a fan of most of the Christmas costumes here. I did not ask about Yoshito's design because last time, because I just don't like the design. But as long as everyone else likes the design, that's fine, I guess. But everyone else
hates Yoshito.
Yes, that's true. I do. Anyway, you can read at the chat now. Hastur, good.
Me?
Oh, right. I should. Fine. Let's see. This kit is bland, but you still want his cheeks. Is this in reference to Yoshito or Hastur? Because it could be true for both, I guess. But let's Let's continue with Hastur.
I wouldn't describe Yoshito's kit as bland.
That's
bland would imply inoffensive.
I don't know. Hastur, my cute little lizard. Where'd my energy go? What the fuck? This stream is taking the energy out of me, stealing my soul. Lucky you got him. Congrats. He's so fine, for real. But maybe I should wait for his 5-star instead. Did he not pull for him? I mean, if you mean waiting for the limit selector, I guess that's reasonable. Although you might be seeing him in the limit selector too. Slapped at the beginning. That's fine. Whoa, it's Grandpa and Zalgi today. So stop reading the chat until it's time. That's cheating. Are you okay, Joe? Like, you need someone to walk you to bed. I don't know what you're talking about. Poor Hastur got stuck with a mid-kit and sharing a banner with Korpokkur. The best way I can describe Christmas Hastur is that he fills the same niche as default 5-star Aizen, but the former requires attacking instead of moving. You know, there is another unit that can also attack the heal instead, and that is a hub, and he does it much better. I believe he actually does heal like a meaty 600 HP or some shit like that for every enemy he hits. So quite incredible already, whereas like Hastur here needs to rely on shaky rates and combo to, you know, achieve a fraction of his glory. So, Korpokkur being the better unit, Christmas Tendelos, perhaps. It's truly a 9-11 for Hastur events. Waiting for LifeWonders to buff him the same way they buffed Summer Tendelos. It's gonna happen to Korpokkur, just watch. Gotta get that cake and meet in the unit art. Yummers, yeah. Talking about Yoshito equals 30 minutes. I saw you commenting in chat, yeah, because it was the time to comment in chat. Talking about Hastur equals 10 minutes. Yeah, I was kind of surprised with how quickly Zalgus just like, and that's all my thoughts. I was like, Zalgus, are you sure you don't have any more?
I mean, what is there to say about this, really? Like, I guess the defensive stacking is kind of funny how much you can get, because you can get all of the defensive buffs except defense up. And I guess, like, auxiliary ones like... Oh, right, Adamantine. He can't even get all of them. What a loser.
He's pretty garbo, yeah. I mean, he's not that garbo, but, like...
Yeah,
for someone who's supposed to, like, invest in tanking, it's like... A lot of his kit, on the surface at least, reads, I don't want to tank. You have to work with me to tank. Did I do the HDQ stream already yet? Yeah, I did it yesterday. You can see the playback for it. Also, you joined late. I have no idea what that emoji is supposed to mean. I don't know if it means you're like, you know, touching your cheek in embarrassment or you're doing like the crazy symbol, but I don't know. Anyways, we're moving on from Hastur because he's apparently, there's nothing to say about him. Take one good look at Hastur because like this will probably be the last time most of you will agree there's a hot unit on screen. And feast your eyes on this guy instead. It's Korpokkur! Everyone's truly favorite unit with a terrible kit. Why don't you elaborate on this? Zalgus, take it away from here.
Let me blow my nose fast.
Yeah. Are you gonna...
There we go. Am I gonna what?
Are you gonna cover it?
My nose or the kit?
The kit. Yes. Jeez.
Right, so Korpokkur, everybody's favorite ice gremlin, Korpokkur, is here for his double 5-star variant. Let's get into it. So the vast majority of Korpokkur's skills are very automatic things, phase start and when appearing triggers. He's very easy to set and forget for the most part, and like I mentioned with Yoshito, that's something I personally do like to take into account when looking at new units. Do I have to invest in a move slot for them, yes or no? Or, you know, if so, how often do I have to move them? And Korpokkur doesn't have to move, like, at all, which is, in fact, he can't move, which is definitely something that assists him. But, yes, when appearing, horizontal movement expansion to allies, but not to self, because he can't move. This is just a useful repositioning tool. It doesn't matter that Korpokkur doesn't get it because, again, he can't move. And in a wide map, this will allow whoever is on the other side to quickly join up with Korpokkur. Or you can have whoever is with Korpokkur ferry him over because he'll need to be adjacent for some of his skills. So, yeah, it is just a small thing, but it's nice to have, especially on a wide map. Also, prayer when appearing, because why not make his important skills easily confirmable without skill seed? Yeah, I mean, it's just nice to have in general. Okay, on to the phase start part of his kit, which is the important part. So a bestow acceleration to allies and self around skill bestowal that is primarily for assisting Korpokkur's CP gain. Korpokkur won't be moving himself, but whoever is going to be ferrying Korpokkur, probably, is going to give him acceleration. It's kind of whatever, because they could have just made it Korpokkur give it to him himself, but whatever. For units who do actually benefit from acceleration, they usually give it to themselves already, so, you know, it's definitely more for assisting Korpokkur, in my opinion. For some reason, the skill only lasts 2 turns, which is like, what? I don't know why they made the time to use this so low. It basically only lasts 1 turn, which is like whatever. Well, I guess 2 turns, but and yeah, immobility to self, which again is what necessitates him being ferried about. But again, another part to assist him in CP gain, which I'll get onto his CS later. Freeze resistance to allies all around, sure, whatever. It ironically means that he counters both his own versions. Well, I don't know if he would call countering his CS here, countering him, because that's not actually what he's built around. But yes, the real stars of the show. So first of all, phase start to Ardor to self and allies all around is nice, but the big win is a phase start to global range, break and weakness to all enemies. So we've had plenty of global amps before, but this is the first time we've had, or no, this is the second time, excuse me, we've had a global defense debuff. Amusingly, the first one we had was Valentine's Jacob, who inflicted a global buff reversal, which Valentine's Jacob is actually a good partner for Korpokkur. But anyway, so Korpokkur applies break and weakness, which means, you know, it's ready to go from turn 1, unlike Jacob, who needs some setup. And that means he globally applies a 5.76 defense debuff, which is really competitive. Like, it's really up there. Many other global buffers apply just 1 buff, but Korpokkur can apply 2, and he can even overtake some of his peers who apply 2, like Qinglong, who provides a 4.4x global buff. And also, because Korpokkur is applying debuffs instead of buffs, it's way easier to damage stack as a result. The number of units who buff allies and self is way higher than the units who debuff enemies, let alone, you know, do both break and weakness. So yeah, a lot of flexibility there. And when you combine it with his Ardor, that's a 13.8 times amp, which is really quite impressive. Since it's all around, it's guaranteed that whoever is sitting above or below Korpokkur in the formation is going to get it. So yeah, it's very easily confirmable. And, you know, in tall maps or small maps, like, you know, Korpokkur might even be providing that to the entire team. So that's great. So that's the main draw of Korpokkur's kit, in my opinion, but he does have a few other things. After hitting, applies nullify buff to enemies and nullify debuff to allies and self all around. The rates are 80 and 70, which is actually higher than advertised because of prayer. They're not always noticeable, but they're good to have. Nullify buff is, in my opinion, still fairly rare. But yes, Korpokkur also has a decent amount of CP gain in his kit, between his acceleration, ardor, and arousal, and immobility, and also CP to self on hit. That's 10 CP per hit. So he wants to get his CS pretty fast, and he will do. So what his CS does is snipe range, and it grants himself CP for each enemy hit, which at higher levels of SA will allow him to loop his CS fairly well. In fact, you do want higher SA levels to get Korpokkur to be effective. Nullify, debuff, whatever. But the real interesting part is the freeze stacks. When he hits enemies with a CS, he'll apply freeze stacks. So much like Virtual Summer Memory Shenong, whose CS appears to apply poison stacks based on turn, except he actually just applies all stacks at once, Korpokkur CS does the same thing. He instantly applies all 4 stacks of freeze to hit enemies and those left and right. This does not include regular freeze, so there is actually a 5th stack that someone else could apply, but not Korpokkur here. Now, on its own, this is not actually very impressive. At SA1, you're looking at a level 1 freeze, which is 1.1 for a piddly 1.46 times damage buff. Now, what you really want to do is to use units who have advantage against freeze. As I mentioned before, there is a Valentine's Jacob who can apply a 1.5 times multiplier advantage for every free stack to self and allies, and he does that automatically. And with a 1.5 times advantage versus every stack, that changes a SA level 1 Korpokkur CS from 1.46 times multiplier to a 7.4 times multiplier, because it's applying every stack. When you add in additional stacks like the Chernobog Zhao AR, for example, which is also a 1.4 times thing, or Halloween Alice's debuff advantage, which is 1.4 times, it can get pretty out of hand very quickly. Which is pretty funny in my opinion. So, for example, the highest I found just offhand, without using multiple units. Valentine's Jacob's CS also applies freeze, and also has a 2 times damage buff against freeze stacks, and he himself has freeze advantage. Unfortunately, he can't equip the Chernobog Zhao AR because it has a terrible set of units who can use it, but he can use the 1.2 times Lucifuge Bale one. So 5 stacks of freeze, so that's 5 1.5s, 1.2s, and 2 times, and also 1.1s. And this is without the CS multiplier, and assuming I didn't mess up my napkin math, if you want to call it napkin math, earlier, that alone is a 973.8 times multiplier. Again, this is without the CS multiplier or any of the other buffs that Jacob gives himself, so that's a lot. But yeah, that's just silly stacking you can do. The same thing could be seen with Shennong's poison stacking if you use like Astarte and Astaroth, who also had advantage against poison. So yeah, his CS is mainly for the meme because there's not too many units who can really take advantage of. Oh, whoops! I didn't let go of my fucking push at all. There aren't too many units who can take advantage of the freeze, but I'd say there are enough that it's worth considering. Like Kirito can do it, Volos can do it, 4K Kamui can do it. Who else? Halloween Alice can also bestow advantage. Jacob can bestow advantage. There's also what's that guy? Ulan Batar Christmas. He can do it too. So plenty of units who are perfectly usable who can take advantage of this. So if you do in fact have Korpokkur and are willing to use him, you can look into using his CS if you for some reason really want that ridiculous damage stacking. But even without his damage stacking, his break and weakness are enough to pull for, in my opinion. Now, we have plenty of global damage buffers at this point, and we have everyone's favorite King Solomon. And Korpokkur, is just another damage buffer on top of that, although him having the unique niche of applying debuffs instead of buffs is definitely a trait unique to him that is it's very useful in my opinion, because there's no overlap in any of the teams I use. So yeah, there are a few other things I didn't mention, but they're pretty extraneous to the debuffs. But yeah, overall, he's quite a powerful unit, and if his kit was literally just break and weakness to enemies globally on phase start, if that was his one skill, he would still probably be worth considering. So yeah, pretty powerful unit.
So, thank you for pretty much running down every point as per usual. I can only really comment on the practical specifics on it. So he said he's quite powerful for being a board white imp. He's also the only one that can reliably disable movement now. There was Lundbach Steeple before, which was unreliable, and there was Immune Kami, which did it once on arrival. But Korpokkur is quite nice because he just, disables the enemy every phase, guaranteed out of the box. That's very nice that his board-wide amps and his board-wide movement disable is like just guaranteed. Like, you get him, you have that. And to give you context of it, he is actually just like, we're pulling like very like small differences here, but he is actually just like the strongest board-wide amp in the game. Even when you're comparing him to Housamo, which is not technically a board-wide amp, but functionally acts as one. Because, what's it called? If we're looking at Wakam Tankamugen, who is the former best before Housamo, he applied attack up and brawn to the entire board, which was 5.06 times damage to all allies. If you count concentration on second turn, which is not reliable, that's 11 times damage. Korpokkur with weakness and break does 5.76 times damage, and with ardor to allies nearby does almost 14 times, so that's like 13.8 times damage. Where Housamo with his attack up and his contractual dues is only 13.2 times. So he is just like, by the numbers, even if it's only a small difference, actually just the strongest damage amp in the game right now, while also being guaranteed out of the box and also having, well, the art is not guaranteed, but is guaranteed at least.
No, it's guaranteed because he has prayer.
He's guaranteed. Yeah, it's
and because prayers when appearing, it means that it will go before everything else.
So he's like incredibly powerful for not just being the strongest like damage amplifier in the game board wide, and combinatorially locally also stronger than your other board wide one amps. He's also just stronger in terms of also applying that utility of denying movement at the same time, while also giving the very rare but always appreciated utility of giving extended movement to all other allies. So that's like a double whammy in terms of utility.
Even.
Yeah, so it's quite crazy that he's able to extend movement while also denying enemy movement at the same time, while having board-wide amps. So, he's not just raw big damage number of funny haha. He has a lot of utility too, which is quite good. In addition to all that, what other notes on him? The void overlap. Oh yeah, because his way of implementing his board-wide amp is so unique, he just very, very easily can be combined with other board-wide amplifiers without really having any chance to overlap with them, except through maybe Ardor, which is local anyways. Like, you can put him with a Qinglong, because that's concentration and, wooden strength thingy. None of that overlaps. You can put him with Walter and, attack up and brawn and concentration. That doesn't overlap. You can put him with Fushi. That doesn't overlap, because it's like his break and weakness, just no one else has done either before board-wide. They start constantly like that, so the fact that he's meanwhile, it's like fucking he can do Monobi too. Meanwhile, there's like 10 billion units that including equip that does like attack up board wide now, so like Korpokkur can just synergize with any of them very easily. Those steps, no toe step that whatsoever.
Can he equip that one?
I don't know. I mean, you just switch him to Warmongers, then he should be able to, but you can if you want. So he could just by switching to Warmongers. That is definitely enough. Besides that, of course, he's useful for both his disable for movement and his movement, and you mentioned all about the free stack exploitation, but you really, this is not something we talk about very often, but it is worth talking about because, it is a significant. It might be worth wailing for Korpokkur if you're a whale. I know a lot of you will scoff at the idea, but he is one of the units that has the more damage amps you have on your charge, distinct ones, the more insane it scales. Like, you have like, it's like a exponential growth, I guess, in terms of it's like 2 times 2 if there's only 2 amps, but this is 4 amps, so it's like 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, so that's like it dramatically increases much higher the damage, the more charge or artifact level you have. And thankfully I managed to show some footage here with Korpokkur here. Unfortunately, in this larger map, I'm not really able to demonstrate his damage because he's fucking is like keeps getting preempted in support slot. But in this one, in the Creator's Challenge Quest, he can demonstrate his full charge damage with Artifact level 100. Thank you to Lin for having that on support. He does do an insane amount of damage. It is very weak if it's on just Artifact level 1 at 56,000 damage per square, where he gets all his free stacks as well as Ardor and Weakness and Break. But if you are at a Hyper Whale for some reason and you have Artifact level 100, then his damage scales from 56,000 damage per square to 1.7 million damage per square. So he is boss killing very easily by himself without any other additional amps. And he's
also going to be looping his CS.
Yeah, he gets his charge fast too, right? So it's like, not only does he have a very strong charge, but it's very easy for him to get it too. So 1.7 million times damage all from himself. It's like very easy to reach the damage cap from there with anyone else at that point. Just like need maybe like 500 times more damage from that, which sounds like a lot, but trust me, it's not at that point.
just bring Jacob or Alice.
Yeah, Jacob's insane amount of stacks. The problem with Jacob synergies, I was talking about this with Zalgus before, and Alice synergies, is kind of funny. You're not going to be likely taking advantage of the Jacob and Alice synergies, most likely just because you're most likely going to kill the unit with Korpokkur before you can actually take advantage of those free stacks. But if for some reason they're alive, then yes, Jacob could take advantage with even more damage with his Alice advantage for every free stack, plus his own advantage on his regular attack, plus his own advantage on his charge, and it'll go like stupidly crazy. But yeah, especially if it's full level freeze, because mind you, freeze isn't like stupid poison stacks which are just trash and just act as a way to get increasing damage. No, freeze by its own merits is a scaling damage amp, so it it's like a lot, even if it's just you're looking at advantage effects. The freeze itself will have a meaningful impact if you have a high enough artifact level. So, for the reluctant whales out there, you can take solace in, Korpokkur is definitely one of the best units you can whale for in the entire game. So even if you don't like the rest about him, you are getting your money back from this, so I don't tell you.
I like your Licho usage to turn him into all range.
I try to do that, and he does, but it's like every single time, he turns other people to an all range, including himself, and he just kills everyone before Korpokkur can do anything. It's kind of hard to find quests that have enough HP that Korpokkur will be able to wipe everyone on support. So, his damages does reach impractical levels of insanity, but it is very easy to get high damage either way. So if you do seeing those fusion embers, yeah, Korpokkur, one of the easiest way to get insane damage with very rare ways to do it, with free stacks not being common or just tied to him, and his board-wide debuffs also just being tied to him at this point.
He'll be there for next year's April Fools.
Okay, sure. But yeah, that's all my thoughts on Korpokkur. Do you want to read up the chat?
Sure. He's mewing. You missed the Bigfoot sweep show. It was beautiful. Right. Doesn't work because he's fat. And the second one, Tomato. Of course, the Daichi got all the power. He may be a world rep, but still. I feel like there's a world rep who you can say got bad treatment, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I mean, as a slot space, it still needs some Evo.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, Lab Effect just uses variant.
There's also Sotru, who is just shit all around, both variant and base kit wise.
Who? I know. I'm not mewing. Tomato. Oh, we gotta go. Vomit, get out of here, Biggie. And run, Tomato. It's Mr. Blue Archive. Blue Archive, what?
I mean, anime reference, I don't know.
No, I know what Blue Archive is. I just don't know why he's from Blue Archive. At least I bothered... Oh, right. At least I bothered putting him on my support lineup as opposed to the Krampus earlier this year.
Did you know that Lin hates Krampus? He never gave you the reason why, but apparently that's the thing. Lin does not, in fact, dislike every character in this game. He does actually have his preferences, and Krampus being one I thought was funny.
I don't know, Krampussy or something. Krampus mid because he takes away from Dead Yule screen time.
So true.
Hopefully for you, the AR banner next year will also give a 5-star for Taishakuten. Huh? What, as in a new 5-star Taishakuten AR?
I've got no idea.
Taishakuten doesn't exist, sorry. Yule in Big 2024, go home. ZZZ. I think Harvey's talking to you.
Yeah, well, Harvey's wrong about this. L plus ratio.
I mean, Korpokkur's better than Yule anyway, but that doesn't preclude you from just using both of them.
Yeah.
His kit's okay, but until that move support surrounding lineup update happens, he's way less useful if you don't have him.
It's gonna be happening this year, but I don't know if anyone's gonna have Korpokkur up at that point. I know, despite Lyn having wailed for him, it's not like he likes him, so he's probably gonna just have some other unit on... What's his type? Water? I don't know. He's probably gonna have...
Yes.
Or some shit like that. I don't know.
Ice, I guess. But, I mean, I don't know about way less useful, because realistically, you're getting most of the benefit from Korpokkur out of his break and weakness and Ardor. I mean, Ardor, like, necessitates that you sit him behind someone, so, you have to have whoever is paired with him in slot 2, but...
I sort of get what Lazy Crow's saying. I mean, yeah, you could use them for the board-wide amp, but even though they're, like, weaker, they're still pretty comparable for all the substitutes he has for board-wide amp. The one thing he does unique with his free stacks is just, like, only functional if he's slotted earlier.
I suppose. Pulling higher SA for Corp, the skull emoji. I mean, hey, I wouldn't mind insane damage stacking, that sounds funny. 100% convinced someone at LifeWonders accidentally swapped Hastur and Corp's kits before releasing the banner.
I don't know why everyone keeps on saying that. Well, maybe you, but I've seen that comment more than once at this point, and it doesn't make sense.
Why would I say that?
Not you, I'm talking about Lyn.
But the free stacks wouldn't work on Hastur.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense.
Hastur is like, it's supposed to be like a radioactive zone. So
yeah, his actually makes sense because he uses his yellow seals to seal off an area, which, that's just his protection effect, and, he seals off an area even more by putting more defensive amps. It works within lore-wise. You could. It's not great, but it works lore-wise, so they did not switch the kits, in fact.
Tomato. Free stats on Corp wouldn't make sense, though. I think you mean Hastur. No, I think it's right. They love giving kids extra love. Look at Azathoth, get out of the chat era. What a waste. Also, Inaba usage, rabbit.
You don't even know how to use Inaba.
Who, me?
Joe, why do you keep on thinking I'm talking to you?
I don't know. Gross. Why couldn't they have made Corp bad instead? Shota bias or something. LifeWonders showing Corp stand to love. Yes, they exist. I mean, his base version was kind of meh. I mean, I pretty much only used him for that one meme video where for the April Fools, where I used him for hyper free stacking. Which, I mean, I guess this Korpokkur does it better, or faster. I'm choosing to ignore the idea of giving Corp SA levels. But think of the big numbers. Like, I mean, at SA1, Jacob can get a 900 or almost 1,000 times multiplier.
I would say, I mean, only if you're like a dolphin at best, maybe consider it. But like, if if you're just a casual player who doesn't pull for more dupes, please do not. Like, there's a lot of damage, but like, you could technically get some similar damage from like Amducius, which is like you only need one copy of.
Also, you don't even really need extra copies to. You just need Jacob.
Yeah.
Or Hallis. But yeah, it is a funny meme in my opinion, but it's really not worth pulling for. Also, yeah, I see your Kagutsuchi killing everyone before Korpokkur can actually apply anything.
Yeah, I'm trying.
And then
this one's better with Solomon and other OP units. I don't use those units often, but I only use them when the unit I'm demonstrating is already OP too, so.
Those who snow. Huh?
I have no idea.
I would rather not get a 5-star than wailing for Corp skull emoji. Too bad. Harvey, you're big, and I don't mean in length. Girthy, Hastur on screen, sex, Corp on screen, death, skull emoji. Why do I keep saying that? Where, when Housamo ends and they release it as a regular game, that's not going to happen. Hope people make a mod to switch his kit with X Hasturs.
That doesn't even make sense. Just change the kit. You don't need to swap them.
Yeah, if
what
you're
are you doing?
That
you're just
rate.
having Korpokkur's kit and Hasturs at that point. Do you really want Korpokkur's vestiges within the Hastur? Really? Just design something original at that point. Jeez.
Wait, y'all forgot the Jack Frost review. Yeah, sure.
LifeWonders did too.
Lin writing poetry right now. Hastur is sex because he takes his sweet time giving the enemy love taps, and Corp is death because they actually die when he's on screen. True.
Too real.
The pregnancy male. Good. Cute and handsome out of 10. Jack Frost crying emoji. Yes, I do. You're just being a hater. Sorry, I'm naughty. Our Korpokkur fans finally won. Korpokkur fans don't deserve wins. Well,
the salt is unreal. L plus ratio, everyone. I mean, Korpokkur being the best unit in this manner is the least surprising things. Keep crying about it. Okay, are we done with this? Do you want to move on to the final section, or?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay.
Korpokkur, good. There you go.
I like this poncho. I'm definitely a big fan of the stand outfits besides Yoshito. Yoshito! Sorry, I'm losing my mind. Anyways, we're finally done discussing the units. There are no equips, there are no evos. That was really it. This is a very short Christmas, but then again, I don't mind because Christmas is a short event and it'd be better if they sped along like this rather than have it overlap with New Year's. So, what do you think of this, what do you think of this event, as well as the new units, the kits, the music, this theme, and maybe even, since this is likely going to be our last stream, what do you think of the year overall? Part 2, since we kind of talked about that already in our last discussion.
I think you should have given me a list to study the exam before asking me these. This event is, it's kind of whatever. I enjoy the Maho Shoujo thing, but I am not really a fan of how Snegurochka did it, and also it's just her, and everyone else kind of got basically irrelevant to the theme outfits. It's
are you saying you wanted everyone to have magical girl outfits? Please no, please don't tell me you're actually wishing that.
Yeah, actually, that would have been funny.
Awful.
No. No, I don't know. If there was another girl that would have been to also wear that outfit, that would have been neat. But even in Maho Shoujos, there are boy outfits to use, or outfits for the villains, but they do not dress like Tianzun. Which Tianzun's outfit is horny and all that, and looks nice, but yeah. It's whatever. The units, it's very amusing that Korpokkur is broken in this manner. Well, broken, air quotes. Is strong in this manner. And everyone else, well, Snegurochka's fine, but Tianzun is kind of just whatever for me. And well, I guess he's in the same bracket as Snegurochka. And Yoshito is, yeah. What were your other questions?
Okay, maybe I should take the lead then.
Sorry, I'm speechless.
Alright, well, I thought the event itself was a pretty good theme. I thought it was a winter version of Valentine Fantasy. So even though it's not Magical Girl exclusive, but I still thought it fit the theme in terms of the prince and the villain, and what's called the musician, whatever Yoshito's supposed to be, and the snow maiden, and what's called whatever Korpokkur is, astronaut. It is very fantasy based, but with the winter theme. So I liked it. They pulled it off with decent costumes, and I'm a big fan of the Santa costume variety, except for Yoshito. But kit-wise, obviously that's mostly a disappointment. And music-wise, it's pretty good. I would say it's bad. It's like there's been a lot of downers within this past year or two for music. This event, while not fantastic or something to bang your head to, they're pretty good overall, both the shop and the battle theme. And as for the year overall, well, it's been quite a journey because this is the first full year I did evaluations for. I had a lot more contact with the units than I usually do, since I actually had to play with every unit and, you know, write a script about them, read about all the units. I had a lot of fun reading about them and learning everyone's proper pronunciations and all of that. Which, you know, some of you may be bugged by when I say someone's name is weird, but that's just me doing the research to see how they're pronounced natively. It was a lot of work, though. I am kind of losing steam, especially with Kyoma. Like, if I'm being real, I do like toy with my head a lot. Like, maybe I should just stop doing this at some point. And I was kind of toying with doing that when my computer crashed earlier, but you know, we're still going strong. And maybe the game will turn up now. The game's been a bit too easy for me to start really seeing the value of these reviews nowadays, since it's like, why bother reviewing everyone when game's easy with Anvari?
Just put a banner saying use Kyoma and then make the thumbnail for every video from now on use Kyoma.
It does feel like that, yeah. I mean, that's a bit irrelevant since Kyoma is limited and, you know, not everyone will have Kyoma. But it is true that with Kyoma existing and being the optimum choice that everyone should pull for, it's like everyone should have him along with Anvari.
You don't even need to pull for him, you can just use him on support, but then you can't use Anvari.
You know. But yeah, I do think Kyoma was very bad for this game, and it definitely, like, kneecapped my motivation and my, you know, optimism for this game quite a lot. But, you know, in the same breath, this year I probably had some of the most fun I've had compared to the previous years over just, like, putting on a fake smile while I, you know, made videos for these challenge quests, which were not actually challenging, you know? After, like, giving up on that and instead just making my own quirky demonstration videos to showcase where each unit is best, I started to appreciate the game again, but it does require, like, you know, intentionally closing off the other possibilities you could bring where you just blow everything up instantly. But it was nice to see, you know, I can say more than anyone else that, like, the units are intentionally and thoughtfully designed. They're not necessarily, you know, good, but it is clear that they intentionally put the thought into making 4 stars consistently shit if they're permanent. It's intentional, and, you know, there's, like, a clear balance in mind that's going on. I just wish they had that sort of mindset when it came to challenge quests, but I did appreciate their release of the... If you remember, they did a high score sort of challenge before with... You had to do something
April
like
Fools.
So even though that's just a silly little thing and it's not like they ever posted results, it was enjoyable, and I wish they had more content like that because it was a breath of fresh air. That's probably the more enjoyable high difficulty kind of content in this game, not the actual event HTTPs, but that as well as the chapter 14 main quest stuff, which I finally got to doing. But yeah, maybe I'm still working on a video to review or, you know, summarize all the new units. I'm not sure if I'll actually have the motivation to finish at this point, but I'd say overall, besides the very end, it was like a pretty fun year. Music was kind of mid, but the units, whether they were good or bad, they're fun to talk about. Like, there are boring units, and then there are, like, truly horrific units that are actually funny to talk about, like Baphomet and Belphegor.
Yeah, I'm
so
looking at the list of units this year.
Sorry, what?
I'm like looking at the list of units this year, and I'm like, I didn't really like that many units this year, honestly.
At least they were fun to talk about, even if they were bad for the most. They weren't, like, you know, criminally boring and terrible. If they were bad, they did, like, you know, virtuosically so, which I think is funny. But yeah, for the most, I do think while Crossroad was the biggest miss of the year event-wise, because it was just like rehashing existing tropes to provide more variety. They eventually got their feet on the ground to make some more diverse types of kits. I do think Top of Summer Mountains was a kind of a big miss for the 5 stars, but they were at least exploring with the totem archetype, which they haven't really done that well beforehand. I do think Zhao and Tanguchi are fantastic additions for 4 stars, though. Great creative choices alongside the entirety of the what's called the Fabulous Summer Host banner was quite creative, with everyone just not exactly being relevant for farming, but, you know, quirky with these debuffs centric kits and doing things in a very indirect way, like with buff stealing, board wiping from Powderon, or from this moving forward weirdness from Powderon and all that. So
I mean, that banner was like, it had the I think the real benefit of that banner was that it buffed Azathoth.
What? Azathoth was buffed in that banner?
Because they added Vanity in that patch.
Oh.
And then Azathoth got Vanity later.
I see, yeah. Vanity is an excellent debuff. I love Vanity so much, you have no idea, guys. It's like conceptually such a good nod towards the gameplay itself. There's like a lot of debuffs that try to be quirky and in lore and all that. But it's like, poison, and then they get like shit poison damage. Like, who cares? It's like, ooh, burn, shit burn damage. Ooh, regeneration, like, and then they use the same defense buffs and damage buffs. And then when they do add a buff, it's like nourishment, which is like fucking nothing. But I do like this debuff specifically a lot, because even though it's specifically like actually nothing, it is very much intentionally a thing that's designed with the kits in mind, not lore. It's supposed to be very silly and exploitable. So conceptually, I love how it's like, a love letter to game design within this game. Just very exploitable, fun stuff. Whether it's Babel.
He loves Vanity.
Yeah, I do. But yeah, Vanity's a very good update, despite it just being a single debuff. I can't wait to see more units use that in status. And I'm glad they're adding it retroactively to more units, unlike fucking... It's like, they made a big deal about, like, fucking, Poison Reversal, and then they never released it again, except for just Shenong. Same thing for, like, Deal with the Devil in Contract. It was just like, until Kyoma, it was never used since soft release. Like, no, they went out of the way to make Vanity re-implemented and much more widespread. And it's, much more impactful than something shit like Nourishment when they retroactively added to a bunch of kits. Every time they added Vanity to an older kit, it's always been effective. Arachne, Vavlon, and Azathoth, all effective stuff. But yeah, outside of that, I think I haven't talked about all the banners yet. There's a Tokyo Dancing Saturday. That was, what happened to that? It was just a bit funny based on the timing of the Rainbow Ticket, in terms of a lot of the units you'd want to pull there kind of get preempted by the Rainbow banner. Like, why pull for Wakan Tonka when you can just get Oscar in the Rainbow Ticket? Why pull for, Bathin when you can just get Merodok from the same banner? And
why pull for Hakumen when you can get
Oscar again? Yeah. At least Hakumen's, instant available source of like weapon change that lasts for more than 2 turns or more than 1 turn, so you can technically copy it and have indefinite weapon change. So that's nice as an option. You no longer need Bring Kelki for some weird shit like that. But yeah, and you already know my thoughts on this banner. It's generally kind of in the same tier of badness in terms of Valentine Crossroad, but it's Crossroad was kind of just boring all around and not very innovative. Meanwhile, at least this event tried to do something a bit different with Korpokkur. Just Korpokkur. But they were cooking with the rest, not very good. So it had a higher high end at least. And Zalgus is stunned because he doesn't remember any of these banners, and he has nothing to add.
That's correct, actually. I barely remember any of these banners. Like that, my understanding of certain units like Zal can boil down to is a global buff bot or a brawn bot.
You don't even remember his board-wide movement? That's why he's actually important, but okay.
No.
Anyway, there was also the new semester stuff and the chapter banner. I did think the first banner, as per expected, was kind of a flop. I barely remember. It's like Prometheus and like Heilong was the 5 stars. So it's like, who even?
Heilong, Prometheus, Belphegor, Belphegor, and Amano Uzume.
Amano Uzume being like the only one worth remembering out of the batch is actually hilarious for new semester one. But the second one definitely,
You need Heilong's buff spread or whatever. I don't even remember which one it is now. Buff steal.
Wake me up when someone actually does something with that. But yeah, other than that, there was the chapter 15 banner as well as the chapter 16 prologue banner, as you brought up, Joe. But yeah, those ones. Well, the part 2 for starters definitely changed the game a lot. It was just Willy. I mean, Rose Amaterasu, I find good use for her. I understand not many others agree, but that...
Foghorn sound.
Sure. She's fun, but I understand that Willie is the main attraction for that, and I do think Tuition is also fun. I just wish I got him. I was tempted to get him maybe next year, but, he's permanent. He'll always be in the shop. And then there was a chapter...
You're forgetting someone.
There's only 2... Were there 5 units on the banner? I thought there were only 4. Oh, it's
Did you mention Raven Arthur? No, okay. No, Raven Arthur.
I did, in passing. I mean, he's bad, but, he's...
And, yes, Baphomet.
You can bring him with Kyoma, so by default he's useful, even though he's bad.
Does that mean Saturnus is useful because you can bring him with,
No,
Kyoma?
I'm saying that because Raven is both a mentor as well as someone who can boost Kyoma's damage with affiliations. Anyway, as for the chapter banners, Nyarlathotep was definitely one of the biggest surprises that was good this year. In terms of such a unique kit that was not replicated in any way by anyone. In terms of could you make a 5-star unit actually feel worth 5 stars without just being hyper damage or hyper amp? And then they released Nyarlathotep, which was pure utility, but in the best sense possible. I'm actually flabbergasted they were able to release a unit like Nyarlathotep. He's quite impressively designed. And
by releasing Current.
Well, Current's interesting. Yeah, Current's quite unique too. We'll talk about that soon. But meanwhile, Mikhail was, I found Mikhail very strong, and I enjoyed using him for the most. Unfortunately, he's retired now that Kyoma's released fucking Kyoma. But I do think Mikhail was a nice step forward towards making front row clears more relevant. With him, as well as Suzuka's evolution, and units like Horus and Zhao, front row clearing became an eensy bit more viable this past year when Palm Clears has been haunting us for the past 3. So, thank you, Mikhail, for that. There was also Baphomet and Sanzo. Sanzo's been pretty good overall, I think, for most people. I don't have him, but, I can't deny his kit's just good. And Baphomet's just, the joke of the year, so can't take them completely if they're just that funny.
I mean, is Baphomet really the joke of the year?
I'm not saying she's the worst of the year, but she is definitely the one that has been lampooned the most.
You also forgot Ramatra.
Oh, you mean Kokopelli? Yeah, Kokopelli was super fun to play with. I mean, I thought it would be silly, but
Russian roulette.
It was just a very easy, accessible way to get a 3 times amp or on a unit that's just a 4-star. All rare ones too, since they're all debuffs. So, yeah, I enjoyed the entire Chapter 15's presence except for Baphomet and Sanso. But it is a strong banner for sure. Definitely redefined how good a chapter banner could be, because chapter banners, I always saw them as New Semester Part 3, but they were always a step below New Semester for the most. There was what did previous New Semester chapter banners have? There was the Chapter 13 one was fucking Tarotama, which no one uses, and what's it called? Isaac and Ulaanbaatar, I guess. What are these units? The Chapter 13 prologue banner ended up being better with Walter as well as Talter, but that's only retroactively after they received their evos. And then Chapter 12 got what's it called? What the chapter? It had Fushi, which was good for a while, and Smokey. So that was pretty strong for sure. I do think Smokey is strong, even if Fushi fell behind.
Obligatory Smokey card mention.
But it was a very small banner, so it didn't feel that impactful. I think it also released Katopo Plus, which was not that great, to be honest.
I mean, I get use out of him sometimes, but
you know what I mean. It's there's niche uses, but it's you really want to be remembering a banner by niche uses. But yeah, I think
that's all I remember them by.
Chapter 15 is definitely not just niche uses. It's exemplary, cutting edge use, and it's arguably actually just better than both of the New Semester banners. I know Willie was in Part 2, but as overall quality through all the units available, yeah, I'd say definitely Chapter 15 blew us out of the water in terms of that quality. That was a fantastic banner. I keep on forgetting about New Year's existing as a banner. I mean, yeah, Chenglong existed, and he got powered up quickly, and Amonojako existed, except he doesn't really, because no one ever uses them. There you go. remember when people believed Chenglong was good? And he is good, but like then they released 10 billion board-wide amps immediately after, and it does not matter. Does not fucking matter.
I mean, the global concentration is still nice.
Whatever. But yeah. Besides that, there was finally closing off is the chapter 16 prologue banner, which is essentially the Fire Nation and ruining everything by making the game too easy with Kyoma. I do like Kurin being more creative in that sense, but you know, she is very much unbalanced in her own different way too.
Yeah, she completely neuters enemy offense in a way that they're very unlikely to be able to circumvent, unless they somehow have weapon CS change nullification, in which case she might actually be making things worse. But that would be funny if they had like changed themselves to weapon change all, and then instead of doing nothing, they just nuke you instead for attempting that.
I mean, that's possible.
They should make Karen do that.
They won't fix past quest, but it's possible, and maybe even likely they'll start adding resistance to CS weapon change then. It's possible. But yeah, it's
yeah. Even beyond that, she does like she can juggernaut by damage by buff stacking, or you know she could flat damage kill everything. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, she does so much, and it's very easy to make even stronger between flat damage, as you said, instant, and you know, sustained, like leveling or meeting up the countdown levels, and then you know, denying everyone's attacks, and also just building everyone's charge super fast, and like, she goes crazy, and of course she has like permanent advantage with divinity type, as well as like, you know, having her acceleration strengthening. She does a lot for sure. But yeah,
there'd be a sign of things to come with the divinity element. Tell you what,
I don't know. I feel like if they release more divine elements, I mean they obviously are, but it's gonna be only within chapter banners. There's no way they're gonna release during events because, well, I'm gonna eat my own words from that. But like, it's like, it seems like it's not just a rare attribute, it's also their excuse to make unbalanced kits, is this thing. So the next time we see Divine, I feel like they're intentionally going to release some unbalanced kit as usual that everyone must pull for, because it's like essentially when you see Divine type, that's 6 stars. It's not 5 stars, it's 6 stars. So
I mean, hey, I'm actually having trouble using some of the Divine units in the later grind quests because they're all fucking null units.
Right, I mean, just couple it up with Envari at that point. If you're wondering about the Grand Quest, I just use Kyoma and double Envari, and they have trouble with the bosses, Kyoma does, but Envari with fucking contract, yeah, it's not a problem at all. Jeez. Anyway, I gave my thoughts of the year. Were you just gonna piggyback off that, or did you not want to add your own thoughts, or?
Well, yeah, I don't know. First of all, they didn't really add any units who I'm exceptionally partial to this year. Like, you know, there are a few who I like, you know, Willy. I think Amaterasu and Michael are cool. And, you know, I like Saturnus' design. But, you know, we don't talk about Saturnus around here.
You're the one who talks the most about him. Jeez.
Yeah, I know, because it's ironic. But no, yeah, they didn't really add too many units who I care about this year, and the variants are kind of whatever theme-wise. None of them really jumped out at me. So yeah, it wasn't particularly interesting me from that front for me this year. And, you know, kit-wise, I can't really say. Like, I mean, I can remember some of them, like, you know, obviously Willy is ludicrous damage capping, and then Amaterasu is hyper defense. And I remember them well enough like that, but they're not exceptionally interesting to me. They're funny to me. Like, I very much enjoy, like, taking the damage or defensive stacking to its logical extreme. But yeah, besides that, I don't really have any particularly profound comments on the rest of the units.
Gotcha. He's
because
too busy
I don't like
playing,
any of them.
He's too busy playing other games like Marvel Rivals and fucking
Heroes of Storm.
Anyways, Yeah, I think we have yammered on enough. I'm not sure if I should even read these chats at this point, but...
I mean, there are some interesting conversations there.
Okay, I'll take a look. If you say there's something interesting, sure. Let's see. You don't like it? Can he put an actual shirt on? Isn't he fully clothed properly? I don't know what you're talking about. Thanks for the stream. Your last stream of the year, for sure. There might be one more video. I mean, that's the goal, but lack of motivation might get to me. But look forward to that, maybe. This event was mid, and I'm going to continue saving for the Goemon variant in big 2025, surely. Did anyone point out that there were 3 children in this manner? No, you're the first one to point it out. I mean, I don't think anyone really has anything to comment on when it comes to Yoshito and Snegurochka. Besides, Snegurochka's a bit boring and not filling Zalgus's expectations from a host shoujo. And Yoshito's just like flaming hot garbage doo-doo. But yeah. I don't mind children happening in Christmas banners because it's literally Christmas. Like, people are forgetting, Christmas is a holiday for the children. It's not really a thing for adults nearly as much as it is for children. Like, yes, it's for the family to get together, but, you know, the whole mythos of Christmas, that's on the children. So, like, the hatred for children showing up on these banners is always bizarre to me. Like, how dare the kids appropriate the Christmas event? It belongs to adults only. Korpokkur had a point. Adults should die. And that you could have event farm side with only children. I didn't notice that part though.
When are they going to add Ebenezer Scrooge?
That's actually pretty good. I'm surprised they didn't add something like that or the Grinch, but I guess those are more like the products of, you know, commercialist sentiment than it is actually about mythology. But you know, to be fair, Santa Claus
Charles Dickens is commercialist.
Consumerist rather. He's I mean, I don't know the origins of the story, but I'm guessing it was released during a time when it was promoting Christmas as we know it, aka not mythologically, but more so already following the traditions of gift giving and all that. Yoshito's a kid? Thought he was just short. He's a very malnourished Hakenchi who could actually be a full adult, but
I think he is just short.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense if he's like just malnourished and short because he's like a spy or some shit like that. Very troubled upbringing, and that's his entire character arc of it. Like, he can have a normal day with you now at Christmas, or I don't know. His research profile read something like that now. Let's hope you'll see Jack Frost in the next event. Right, so about that, there are hints about when he'll be releasing. I'm not too excited about those hints because from what I hear, for those that have been, you know, amazing enough to stay until this long, this might be subject to change. In fact, most definitely will. But I hear he's going to be released during a new semester, so make that as you will. That means that's at least going to be like 6 months away, so you can lower down your enthusiasm. It's not happening anytime soon. I mean, I like most of this banner. They're mostly just competent in boring, stable ways, outside of Yoshito, who is just like exceptionally terrible. Yeah. Who's Kyoma? Joe, you need to leave chat. My favorite part of the event story was on Jack Frost event. What are we in? Some sort of new semester? Oh, okay. Thank you, Harvey, for revealing to everyone. Because you knew I would reveal it anyways. You only got current 3 times. Congrats. That's, I mean, it doesn't scale perfectly well, but it's very easy to get her to have a lot of damage, so it's not the worst thing. Your least favorite part is Harvey glazing Jack Frost. I mean, he needs another polo bear so that him and, what's called Milk don't have to share Labe anymore. His gut has only enough room for so many people's love.
They have a mob, an influencer or whatever they are.
Alright, I think fucking Milk actually fully maxed them. Very cursed.
He did, yes.
Had a good year in Housamo myself, pulled Beach Anvari and Christmas Hester off a single ticket, got a second Huckman raid, and got Mononobe. Congrats for your incredible luck and, you know, not just for your pulls,
but... You got 2 units in a single ticket?
Huh? What?
You got 2 units in a single ticket?
Seems so. I mean, that's pretty incredible, but it's...
The joke is that it sounds like he said he got Manvari.
You know what he means. Come on, Zalgus. No need to be like... Jeez, what the heck?
Actually...
But yeah, Hawkman is probably the biggest surprise for Lazy Crow, so congrats on getting your favorite, which is like, honestly, Hawkman's probably the biggest surprise in terms of second variants. Like, even Bathman could sort of see like the old guard of weirdos from Gen 1, but Hawkman, I never really had any sense that there was people hiring for her. So congrats on, having that pretty much just given just for you, Lazy. And, despite it being undercut by Oscar Redemption, she still has quite a bunch of uses, including with Curran, with her being able to just copy her defensive buffs indefinitely. You like my videos, Zara? Ooh, thank you. I didn't know that. No, thank you for real. Sorry, King. I'll glaze you next stream. Can't believe Jack Frost looked at MC straight on the face and told him 4 months, Alnor. That was crazy. Interesting. 4 months pregnant. If Jack is a 5-star, it will be rough. I'm sure he will be rough, but Igolnak was such a good addition this year. He really was. I'm really glad Igolnak exists. I don't use him enough for the footage, but it's because he's so quirky, and it's not necessarily easy to make teams with him because he is so quirky, but he's powerful enough that he can make a broad variety of teams work anyways, if you're smart enough. God, you forgot summer host lineup outside of Ego. There's Barong, Perun, Bael, which is a board-wide amp, but not like Korpokkur, and Sautahiko, who had some good cake. Is that an emote, please? I'm already out of emoji space. I already added a bunch. My emoji space does increase the more members there are, though, but thank you for gifting so many memberships last time, Lynn. I did manage to add quite a few new ones, thanks of you. Vanity, our beloved. Mirror, mirror. By the way, Lynn, if you actually want the Vanity emote on Discord itself, I invited you last time, but you could, if you're still interested, I can send you a link to my server again, which has a directory that links to a bunch of other servers that I made that has the Discord, or sorry, the Housamo statuses available as emoji. Nourishment, best buff in game. Mononobe bad because he doesn't have it. Rest in peace. RB with amazing takes as usual. Why pull for Hawkbin? Because she's a queen, that's why. I'm glad I got her. I mean, she was my target, but she definitely has a lot more longevity, even if she's not out of the box unique. Having a lot of defense buffs, she already benefit from Curran, and all range is obviously gonna be really cheesy with Turing and all that shit. Let's see what they'll bring in the skill evolution soon enough. Right, they are going to be releasing charge evolutions this year. That's going to be exciting. Mononobe has so much damage, if you know, you know. Matarasu is mid, at least Mikhail was okay. Mikhail was better than okay. I'd like to use him a lot, but now that Kima's out, yeah. Not sure when the next time I'll be pulling up Mikhail, but he served his purpose for quite a while. Meanwhile, Amaterasu, I might still continue using for niche Jurong Arachne strats. Willie, please come soon. I mean, let's be real. Even though Willie's like extremely strong for challenges, it's like he's suboptimal for farming. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, but he's cute though. Also, kind of not really, because his insane damage output is actually useful in some of the grind quests.
No, I don't mean that. I mean just you're kind of locked in double Envari Kyoma, and just by that, like if you don't use them and you use Willie instead, you're being suboptimal. That's what I mean. That's the status for that.
Am I locked into Kyoma?
If you don't use them, then you're missing out on EXP, and you're suboptimal. L plus ratio.
Who cares?
I do. So I'm telling you it's suboptimal. And if you don't care, then you just don't care about what's optimal. L plus ratio. I wish I had gotten the other 5 stars instead of those two. Are you talking about Halong, each one, and Prometheus? Surely not. Jesus Christ. What the hell are you talking about? Please. No. Forget you got Neural. He's so fun to use. He is incredible to use, and I'm surprised by how often I take him out from support. Just for utility effects. He's incredible. That Saturnus achieved peak low just before peak high. Yeah, that was kind of funny. Who could have guessed that the dad coming back would make things worse? I couldn't have predicted that, but then again, Divine was sort of known about beforehand for quite a while, including its advantages. It's not great. Ramatra Housamo. Locapelli is now Korpokkur at home. Kind of. The big Ram owns this. I mean, I think Locapelli still has one additional amp, so he still could be useful. Plus, he has a freeze, which is overlaps Arda. With doesn't step on Korpokkur's freeze, so you could use both easily.
Korpokkur has Arda though, so it's already been matched. Yeah. The big Ram owns this lobby. Overwatch been real silent after Housamo, Matra, and Marvel Rivals shaking my head. Did any of y'all faves get a variant this year? I know yours. No.
Is it? I thought you had a favorite that came out this year. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Did I?
Yep, Saturnus. Ooh.
Well, that's not a variant for one. And for two, it's awful.
Okay.
I mean, I guess there was Bale.
Oh yeah, that was Bale. You were making a big deal of that.
And no, wait, no, Turing was last year. I mean, Bale's cool and all, but I wouldn't describe him as one of my favorites. I like him, more than average, but if off the top of my head I was to list units who I actually consider my favorite, it would be like Shino, Mori, Tigray, and like Otohime.
Everyone must know, but I'm pretty sure Battle's in your top 10, so it's not bad.
Yeah, I guess.
Let's see. Feel like sorry, I skipped a few. You mean Hastur got a note? I did finally get the Summer Behemoth. Congrats on that after all those years. He did kind of fall behind. I mean, he's still good as always. It's just that the alternative means of charge fill is getting a bit more practical now. And, he's still good at boss killing, but in terms of charge filling, there are other options, and it's also like, if you bring them, you're not using Kyoma or Anvari, so always fall to that trap. You feel like Amano Jaku is going to be the next Jugo in terms of being memorable? You say this because you actually forgot he existed until mentioned right now. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty easy to remember him as long as you remember Qinglong's origins, but otherwise, I guess you just remember Qinglong by himself, not really where he came from.
I mean, Jugo is memorable because everyone keeps saying he's unmemorable, so I wouldn't say it's that bad.
And you got Azasoth during the Old Ones banner, so congrats! Yeah, the game's easy for you. I mean, the game's already easy, but whatever. Amano Jaku is cruel against old Dragonman. He doesn't deserve an ounce of attention. The hate jumped out of nowhere. Okay. Amano Jaku is somewhat interesting. You don't know. You just think it's the mask personality thing is cool, but aside from that, you forget about him. I do think the mask is cool too. I enjoyed your free slot actually being free of Kirito for like a whole month before the Mononomo Nation attacked. For real. I'm glad there's like some new choices with that, but like, God. They really just made free slot just so it could be like Kyoma now. The Kyoma slot. I hate this. Or the Kyoma or Anvari slot. Amano Jaku is a cute son. You love Saturnus. Hey, oddly. Saturnus alt in 2 years, surely. MC1 doesn't even sound like a rope. That's what I'm saying. It's like they put effort on Amano Jaku with this mask to have like this clearly, processed voice filter. That sounds cool. But then you have like Algernon, and MSC1 from Curran just like talking normally as if they aren't robots at all. Like, what? But Ara, think of the sexy Santa old man. What? In relation to what? Maybe this was a comment about me criticizing people playing about children in Christmas. I mean, we got those too. We literally just got Tianzun. It's not like they're excluded from the conversation too, but like, Santa is not just lives and dies by Santa. It also involves the gift receivers, aka the children. Also, we should add the Grinch.
The lump of coal for children.
See, I'm not sure. Because then they'd have to make the Grinch sexy, and I don't want to be like, I want to pull for the Grinch. I don't know about that. I don't know if I want that. Plus, again, the Grinch is kind of like a North American recent concoction that I'm not sure is justified to be mythologized in this game yet. More corporate than anything. Yoshito is as old as Mori. He's not a kid. I'll be waiting for the New Year event. According to the survey, at least one other NP's Hawkman stand. Nice. You still have no idea who Kyoma is? Okay, well, you can remain ignorant and in the shadow as usual, Joe, because you don't actually play this game. Amaterasu and Mikhail were on banners with Willy and you're allowed to tap. They weren't on the same banner. They were on... Amaterasu was on New Semester banner. Mikhail ditched his banner with Nero. Wait, sorry. I guess they ditched the banners across each other. Why would he even phrase it like that? I'm getting confused here. I want Summer Behemoth. Good luck. I mean, I know he reprinted maybe a few months ago, but he did escape your fingers, I guess. And for those who knows, everyone knows. If you don't, you don't exist. Okay. Herbie with the superlatives as usual. I want to kiss some. I'm not gonna read the rest of that. Drip King Hastur got all that out, and you're happy. Ara complaining about everyone pulling their trash faves and free slot, and now there's an actual good character that he's still complaining, Sigma, not beating the geezer allegations. Okay, well, I can address that, but I feel like no matter what, I'm gonna be on the losing side here. But, like, let's be real, free slot has been problematic for many reasons all the time. It's less a problem about the free slot having trash. I'm not complaining about people putting their trash on there. I'm just not gonna use it, right? But, like, it's like a complaint from two different angles in terms of you either pull your faves that are useless or you put on the relevant units. It's like, shouldn't all units be relevant so that, you know, they don't have to be one or the other?
No, of course not.
Harvey's here suddenly. he's here to say,
He's
actually.
He's been here for a while.
Yeah, I've been here for like a good 10 minutes.
I've been yapping all the time. You didn't say a single thing. Are you kidding me?
I heard the welcome sound.
Yeah, you were on a roll with reading comments. I was gonna tell you to like wrap it up, but you seem to be doing that, so.
Alright, from faves and Anvari to Mononobe faves and Anvari, we gained more diversity in free slot than ever. Yeah, different types of Anvaris with different equips and different types of Mononobes with different skins.
I mean, I still see a decent amount of like random faves on my free slot, but yeah, I don't know.
Sorry that you moved on to more fun games. Yeah, you better be sorry. Yeah, when Mononobe came out, so my friends came back. I see. That's to be expected because, you know, a lot of people quit Housamo during that era of book 1 and only vaguely remember Mononobe fondly, but he kind of does fucking nothing, so I disagree with the sentiment personally, but more power to them. Why is Harvey in the cell? Ew, fat. Harvey, how do you respond?
Oh.
Okay, I think he's at a loss for words. Did you have actually anything specific to say since you joined chat or no?
No, not really, unless you had like...
He was going to say, do you want to play Risk of Rain?
I can feel it. We'll
hop on Risk of Rain.
You'll have to give me a bit, because I didn't even eat lunch yet, and it's already like 6 p.m. here. Jesus Christ, I'm hungry. But I'll join.
That's a fucking you problem, what?
Yes, it is a me problem, so you're gonna have to take it as a you problem while you wait for me while you eat, and then I'll join.
Just obese, like Joe. Unfortunate.
Yeah, and? Anywho. Thank you for joining, everyone. It was wonderful to have you all throughout this 2024. And we will see you guys in the new year. Hopefully we'll get something more interesting for Year of the Serpent than just Jigo and pals. I somehow have doubts.
That's Kotaro. Have fun.
Kotaro, ooh, it's Tangoroa, ooh, like, what's it called? Tetsuya, ooh. So much good snake-based units. Yummers.
We should just add Medusa or something, God.
Well, that'll be the good ending, but I somehow doubt that's gonna happen. We got spoiled with 2 new units for New Year's, so... Okay, on 3, everyone. Let's go say our byes. 1, 2, 3. Bye-bye!
Bye.